a fantastic way to start off the...
Thanks to Olsen for all of the hard work you've done.
We're doing this?
You're
Okay.
so great and awesome and definitely not stressed about making more ideas. Also buy our chair. It comes with a special chair award sent from Dolson's iPhone.
Oh, right. Sent from my iPhone. Hey, that's right. Free plug there from Maxonomic. So dumb. Chair the Maxonomic SMITE chair now. needforseat.com. Get yourself a Maxonomic chair picked up. In-game Ward skin as well. Not a Ward chin, though I guess I just doubled down on that by accidentally saying it again here today. You know, up in arms yesterday, the puppy trick, I think, towed that line. So we reeled it back a little bit today. And then totally not me from my iPhone with the nice $5 donation. So thank you very much for that one.
Can I clarify real quick, Dave?
Yes.
There's no way that you were on the receiving end of the donation page that doesn't exist for Smite Pro. So did you just pay $5 to have a bad ad? Is that the bit? Is that the joke? That you lost money? Is that the bit?
Yes, the bid is that I paid $5 to bail myself out. Aggro, the core of it there is that I'm stressed. I'm stressed coming up with these, but that's okay.
It was
the production
a cry for
guys
help.
did a great job. They did a great job on this one back in production, so thank you guys. Maxonomic, our chair sponsor here in the SBL. Here's our schedule, what we've seen so far. Up to this point, PK 2-0 over the Renegades. Now, Aggro, you look towards SSG eUnited. Lopsided as far as the standings go. And this is really a big one, I think, for SSG. A chance for them to tie that first place spot.
This is an important game for SSG. They cannot afford to take eUnited lightly because eUnited, even though they haven't found a win yet, is a team that upset some teams in phase number 1. That's pretty important for them to try and revitalize that streak in them. So we'll see if they're able to do it here today. SSG is a team that I think can fall victim to being a little bit too overconfident at times. We'll see if they're able to lock it down and play fundamental Smite today.
No, and look, not that I'm hanging anything on Raffer, but if you haven't seen my team check-in with SSG, check out Smite Pro on YouTube. I talked to them, and there was a lot of kind of joking around how, if Raffer kind of, gets mentally out of it, maybe the rest of the team will as well. Of course, a little hyperbole, I think, on their side there. But I think fun to kind of continue that conversation through this long lane here, Aggro. Vote is going to be going up against GuyJ here today, so a very strong test for the eUnited Hunter, and one where Vote will be expected to step up in kind.
Vote's had a pretty solid phase 2 so far. We're expecting more big things from him. I think as this phase continues, Spacestation's duo lane definitely struggled at the very beginning of phase number 1, and towards the end of phase 1 clearly became much more comfortable. We'll see if that can continue today, or if United's new look duo lane can kind of throw them for a wrench.
Yeah, and pivoting this conversation over towards eUnited, you look at Snoopy and GuyJ. That's the duo here. Of course, Snoopy with the role swap, GuyJ the new addition. Kind of zoom out for me, compare day one of phase 2 to kind of what we've seen now. What kind of strides have you seen this duo lane make?
Clear improvements for this duo lane, both on both players' ends. GuyJ now has a legitimate pick that I think should be taken away from him pretty consistently in this ROM. No coincidence that it's a ROM highlight right away. This has been the pick by far for GuyJ, but even with this pick, still has trouble in the late game team fights. Mechanically, I've been very, very impressed with GuyJ. It's a late game team fight positioning and decision making that we still need to see some more growth from him. As for Snoopy, the God pool has gotten a little bit better. That early Cthulhu support that he was experimenting with, they've clearly moved away from. The Hercules has been a big pick for them, and I think mechanically Snoopy's been fantastic in that lane. It's that same problem in decision making, though Snoopy's tends to be a little bit more early game focused, where he can get picked off early and then continue to fall behind as he just goes for the same plays over and over and over again. Snoopy still needs to learn those limits in support, but I think mechanically he's been very impressive as of late.
And remember, with this eUnited team still searching for their first win in the SPL, I think we've given them a little extra breathing room because of that new look duo lane coming into the phase, but now we're getting into that point, 6, 7, 8 games where the wheels need to start turning here and get eUnited some momentum in the FaZe. Talked a little bit about Guy J. We also talked to Guy J. A little bit of a check-in here for the eUnited Hunter.
All right, well, I have Guy J here, Hunter for eUnited. And the first thing that I want to ask you about here, man, is what do you think right now? I know the FaZe hasn't been going the way that you all wanted, but what do you think is the most important thing for your team to start working on for you all to start to see some improvement in your results?
So right now, it's all about minimizing our mistakes. I think that nobody is putting it past us that we show these flashes of brilliance, or that we show that we can be competitive, but then we mess up and we lose it all. So essentially, we just need to clean up and keep our heads in the game the whole time, and really focus on playing safe, playing conservative, and doing with our lead what we can, and not pushing those boundaries.
Well, Guy, what's been the biggest adjustment for you personally, would you say, coming up here to the SPL in terms of maybe having to make some adjustments in your play or anything like that at all to even just getting used to the schedule that you all play?
Right. I mean, playing in the SPL is completely different than playing in the SEC or the SOC or anything else. I mean, there's so much more you have to be mindful about. You have so many more responsibilities in fights and rotations and timings and farming, and there's just a lot more that you have to be actively thinking about and considering, less you're going to die and your team is gonna lose the game because of you. So the biggest adjustment for me is that just keeping my cool and really just analyzing what's in front of me, and really thinking about my play and making it methodical. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I would just say the level of play is just much higher.
No, I'm glad to hear how mindful you are about all those small things, Guy. The last thing I'll ask you about is that obviously your opponent this time at Spacestation is a pretty tough one, but like you kind of already said, you all are oftentimes in the lead or ahead, and then it feels like one or two small things go wrong, and the game gets away from you. So how do you all feel realistically about your chances here up against Spacestation?
Honestly, I think our chances are pretty solid. We've been working really hard this last week since our last sets. We were really unhappy with the Obey and Renegade sets. And we just knew that was not anywhere near our potential as a team. And so we've all just putting in a lot of work, a lot of time talking to each other, VOD reviewing, and really just essentially just talking it out, what we need to do. And we're feeling much better. We've had a really good week of scrims, and then we're looking to kill SSG.
Well, it's a long phase, man, so I'm sure that we'll have time to see you all reach that potential that you're talking about. Always great to get a chance to hear from you, Guy, as one of our newer players, and looking forward to seeing you here in this match.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, great to check in with Guy J. Really the first chance we've gotten to kind of get the vibe from his own mouth rather than from some of his teammates here. Confidence is kind of the aura that he gives me here. Aggro, kind of final thoughts before we jump into picks and bans. We talked about this ROM. And I always like to ask this question between the highlighted matchup. Do you think there's going to be some overlap here between Vote and Guy J as far as contest between some of those priority hunters go?
Definitely, and it's not just these two teams that have started to prioritize the ROM very highly, so it will definitely continue because we've seen so much success for this pick across multiple different teams at this point. I would expect to see ROM top 3 by one of these two teams. eUnited has let themselves pick ROM later on in the draft, and some teams have started to try and ban it. Some teams have not. They've continued to let eUnited get that pick. Interested to see which route SSG is going to take, because eUnited is not top 2ing this ROM every time like you would almost expect them to do.
Well, picks and bans will answer that question for us. Game number 1 between SSG, kind of a tale of two situations, really, as far as the SPL goes. SSG trying to tie for first, eUnited trying to get something going for themselves. We welcome Mac back in as well for the pick and ban phase between SSG and eUnited.
She's
it's so unfair, dude.
She's checking it out. You know, she heard that there was a bad bit going on in here. She came to check in on you. I told her it wasn't a big deal, that everything was fine, and so she's just, you know, overseeing everything, making sure it's all good.
Unbelievable. Yeah, Joe put her in her Thunder vest and tweeted at me, and that one broke me down a little bit. I can't focus on it anymore, or I'm going to start spiraling. The Oleron and the Persephone, both taken away by SSG, so not strictly by the tier list, but two very high up priority picks there. eUnited going to take away that Aphrodite does not surprise me at all. You've got Dardes on the other side. Aphrodite, one of his strongest picks. He's so strong on that mid lane god. So I think smart from eUnited to take something like that away. Of course, then we get into that conversation of your second pick. You kind of have this ability to ban out a little bit more focused on specific enemy players, gives yourself some opportunity for more of those higher up picks. Giannis, though, talk about mid laners carrying specific bans here, aggro. Aphrodite, not surprising for Dardes, and now Giannis for Hurrywind as well, taken off the table.
That's just the pressure that these guys put on you, that they have game-winning potential by themselves. I'd bet that 92% ban rate for Aphrodite against SSG is the highest in the whole league. It has to be of any pick. And when you just take away a ban from the enemy team, they have to ban this character, and that's it. It opens you up to things like Yemoja, who I don't think we've seen all week leading up to this because she has been so strong. Raffer's going to get his shot at that pick, but eUnited able to snag that Freya for GuyJ.
Strong opening now for eUnited. Very strong for Yemoja. I mean, conversations around her, and I don't even know if they're conversations as much as just sort of statements that she is the strongest support in the game right now. Of course, comes down to player ability, those sorts of things. Raffer, of course, is going to play her near the top of that ceiling there. So strong pick for SSG as well. Cthulhu's been interestingly prioritized, I would say, over the last few weeks. Has been getting banned out here, picked up here and there. Hasn't quite been in that immediate first pick slot. But you look at what eUnited have gotten here, aggro. It's this late game hyper carry in this Freya, and then a Cthulhu that's going to be just as difficult, kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, to melt down. So defensive late game, offensive late game. I think eUnited have got a great start, but Hebo, Yemoja, that's got me worried as well.
Man, this is such a good start for really both teams. Nemesis on the board. I thought that's where SSG might go, but I think that they're picking this Hebo as insurance that eUnited don't want to take Nemesis there for Scream, the traditional counter matchup for that goddess. But SSG get 3 top-tier characters. eUnited get the 2 top-tier characters, it feels like right now, in Freya and Cthulhu. But it doesn't mean that the game's over by any stretch. I still think that SSG was clearly prepared for this, as eUnited go back to that Hercules for Snoopy that they've clearly liked for him.
Yeah, Hercules has started to weave his way into more and more support god pools here. It's of course always that conversation around PVM and Aurora and the contest between those two to lock in this god. Snoopy has continued to play this Hercules since he swapped over to that support role. Looked better each time on it. So I think strong here for eUnited. Should that be a Hercules going over to Snoopy, that would make it a Hercules Freya there in the long lane. Robin, still I think a jungle pick through and through, despite what the Knights might have us believing after game 2 in our previous set. Jingwei, though, taken off the board, so a little hunter focus for eUnited.
I like the position now for Spacestation to start taking away picks that will bring some consistency to the draft here for eUnited, because eUnited is in a spot now where they've got a lot of picks that they need to kind of bring. They've got a lot of good ingredients, but they're looking like they're on Chopped. How do they really all fit together into a cohesive meal is really the thing that you've got to work on. I've been watching a lot of Food Network shows during quarantine, for the record. So now I think eUnited need to find some binding together. They need some guaranteed CC in order to help heal for this Freya. They need something that's not going to get shut down instantly by the Yemoja walls. I think Merlin's a great place to start. Make sure that Dardes doesn't get that for himself, and give a comfort pick over to Hurrywind.
I mean, the real question is, are you a better cook on the back end of watching all these Food Network shows?
I think so. I had a brain blast the other day. We were jonesing for some late night dessert. Instead of just the apple toaster strudel, we made apple toaster strudel a la mode. Bring a little bit of ice cream into the conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
It hit the spot,
totally
let me tell
changes the perspective. I mean, it is
my brain
changing.
Unlocked.
Right, and in that moment, and then that opens up the next thing. I love to hear it out of the household there, that the toaster strudel a la mode is getting some wheels turning here. SSG, Heimdall, maybe more in an interesting point than Cthulhu is. We know where Cthulhu stands. People love to play him. Heimdall was the banned hunter, I think, for a little while. Phase 1, Phase 2, much the same. Now falling down beneath the ROM, beneath the Jingwei. Olarun as well. The magical ADC is on the rise. Heimdall kind of in that middle point where he's frequently available and now getting picked up a little more often.
I love the draft that SSG ends with. We haven't seen them put this Evo anywhere but in the jungle for Cherio, so they get away with not getting Nemesis banned, and now they flex that Hebo back towards mid and get this last pick Nemesis, which is super smart alongside this Heimdall, which is very, very hard to lock down. Now, Merlin and Ratatosker to finish off the draft for eUnited, I think does plug some holes that we were worried about with this draft. Now they've got someone to really carry the load early game, but that was what Lasber was supposed to do on the same Ratatosker pick in the last game that we watched, and that obviously did not come to fruition. Scream is going to have to do a much, much better job than Lasber did in that game of being the early game aggressor, putting some invades into the enemy jungle, finding some windows, because SSG looks like they're going to have pressure in the vast majority of the lanes. Makes them susceptible to the rat ganks, but also means that the ganks are going to be hard.
Well, eUnited have checked the first box. Don't lose in picks and bans. Give yourself a chance to find your first win in the SPL. SSG fighting for first place. John Finch, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dave and Aggro. Let's move into this set between SSG and eUnited and Gore. I'm kind of pumped for this map because I think that eUnited have come in with an actually really sick draft when really they've struggled with that at times. They've come in with this Freya, this Cthulhu, this Hercules support, the Merlin later on. I mean, I think that they have the tools here this time to really go toe-to-toe, even up against a really good team like Spacestation.
And the thing I was worried about, I saw that Cthulhu locked in, and I had flashbacks to week one, and I'm like, no, this is going to Snoopy. Things are going to fall apart from there. What are we going to do? But then, you know, as you said, they grab the Freya, they get this Hercules, everything on their lineup. Even, I think this Ratatosker for Scream is going to help them against SSG. The question is execution-wise, though. When it comes to team fights, that's where, you know, SSG have flourished. eUnited, you know, they're still looking for their first win, I should say, is the nicer way of saying what is happening on the other side, which is that they are on an official, I think, 6-set losing streak, still looking to try and turn that around. But this is just going to be a difficult team to take down, Finch.
It is going to be tough. Make sure you get any votes in you can in the poll in chat. Let us know who you think is going to win, because I imagine you're all going to be wanting to vote Spacestation, but I don't know. Maybe this draft is pulling a couple people over to that other side. The only problems that I'm seeing here, Gore, is that Cheerio has this Nemesis that is considered one of the best picks. You can take it to the Cthulhu to make him easier to kill, especially alongside that Achilles for the execution variety. Could be in some trouble over there in that solo lane. Yeah. Plus, Raffer is on Yamoja. For my money, the best support in the game right now is this Yamoja pick, who's strong throughout multiple stages of the game. So it's not as if the United are on easy streak just because they've come in with some strong picks. I mean, Space Station are in just as strong of a position from where I'm sitting.
Not just strong picks, but strong counters. I mean, we talk so much about this Achilles-Nemesis combo that is pretty much the hand-in-hand duo you need to take down someone like Cthulhu. Nika should be able to more or less control this lane. I don't think he's going to lose it outright. And then once you see Cheerio start coming over for ganks, I expect the execute as well as that protection shred from Nemesis to really shut down Variety early on. It's going to be a difficult solo lane over there for Variety, and I think that's where Scream is going to come into the equation. Should be able to get some easy stuns online if he goes for the Acorn Blast. No matter where he goes in terms of utility, though, I think his ability to reverse the map faster than what we'll see out of Cheerio will at least help him get in on the action. Maybe he's going to have to put in some extra work to make sure it goes in their favor, but at least being there is going to be better than what we could have seen.
Give him a chance with that ability to move around the map at least a little bit faster to perhaps have more of an impact. I mean, in the early game, right, you think Scream should have that edge in terms of being able to get around the map a little bit more. And I think it's important to kind of focus on that because a lot of the time, Scream and Variety, for me, are the strongest part of this eUnited team, but there are also times when Scream could feel sort of like that liability. He has some high variance in his play, where he can look like the best in the world sometimes, and he can look like he's straight up costing them games at other times. Perhaps this Ratatosk can be a chance for him to kind of hone that in a little bit and make sure he's consistently giving them that high end that we all know that he has.
It's that question of consistency that always comes down with it. But honestly, I feel like Scream specifically here is going to be fine, even if Ratatosker, you know, again, he can hit that high end. When you've got these four gods surrounding you, I think you could hit your low end and still end up looking good. It's just so difficult to argue against it. But it comes back to what you had highlighted earlier, not just the duo that is maybe built to shut down this Cthulhu, but also Dardez running this Hebo in the mid. It's a lot of damage there, and Raffer on one of the best performing supports we've had so far this year.
Raffer getting to play on this Yemoja. Vote making good use of that Bifrost in order to retreat. Not a huge surprise, I don't think, that the Hercules Freya are getting off to a little bit of a faster start than this Heimdall Yemoja, and only a little bit. They just ticked over to level 4, so they're really not that far behind. But I'm really interested to see what Acorn Scream is going to build into. It looks like he is on that Nettle Acorn, which is going to move into like the Bristlebush or the Thistlethorn, one of those two options. So looks like he probably is planning on going a little bit aggressive. We might even see that Crit Acorn come out as he's got the ultimate. He's going aggressive. Guy J is able to find the first blood over Vote, and eUnited already on the board.
I can't think of a better target that you would want on eUnited to get first blood than Freya, of all people. I mean, already off to a good ramp. That's going to deny some farm to Vote, and it's also going to get her a little further ahead, hitting level 5. But I'm thinking itemization-wise, that gold is going to make the big difference in terms of trying to finish off, well, Lifesteal Boots 1, and then that Ring of Hecate for the bigger power spike in just a few minutes. So that's great for Guy J. But I'll also say it's not the worst case scenario for SSG. I don't think Guy J getting off to a roll is going to be the best case anything, but lately we've seen him mainly on the ROM where he's been comfortable, so going on to Freya, that late game transition might be a little difficult. But also Vote is one of those things that he's not a win condition for SSG, but he is the icing on the cake that is the win, right? If they're already ahead, Vote's going to come through, he's going to get some insane triple kill and look great. But if they're falling behind, it's never really him who's going to bring it back. So I think him having that first death, it's just going to maybe be a small trip up and nothing big for the team as a whole. My eyes still kind of deviating over towards Dardez, Cherio, and Nika for what they can accomplish as this game goes on.
I think you raise a good point in that most of the time for SSG, it is Nika Cherio Dardez that is leading the charge for them to be successful. Snoopy able to successfully invade the purple buff, even with that River's Rebuke coming out from Raffer, and the banish from Gaia J means they should be able to make it out of here safely. So even though Vote does take that spill, as long as Nika Cherio, and Dardez are looking good, then you shouldn't be too worried about SSG's chances. It's just that that death does come at the expense, or give the benefit over to Guy J on this Freya, and you just do not want to accelerate her at all towards getting that Hecate online to where she gets that boxing potential. Whenever I'm watching a Freya, for me, it's always about when the supports start rotating out of the lane, when she gets that one-on-one bully potential with the Vanish, and with that Valkyrie's Discretion for that kill potential. I want to see if Guy J, once he's alone here against Vote, looks to start getting aggressive and can maybe find some bully potential.
That'll be fun to see. I'm also, and I feel like I'm someone who just touched a hot stove, right? I see eUnited, they're in a pretty decent lead over SSG, and I want to hype it up because that's huge for eUnited. It's just as a team, from what they've been experiencing lately, this is night and day. But I've also been here, casted the set when Obey did the exact same thing. It had a huge turnaround, looked good for the first 15 minutes against SSG, and then it all went downhill from there. So I feel very timid getting excited for them as of right now, but it's such a good scaling late game team for them that this looks good.
Vote able to use that Bifrost successfully to get out of there. Cheerio shows up to try and complete the gank, but Valkyrie's Discretion gets Guy J out of there. No need to use any relics. He's safe, but Raffer is on his way, and it might be Snoopy that ends up in trouble because Raffer has that River's Rebuke. The slow is there too, but Snoopy able to use that driving strike to make it out of there safely. Scream is nearby, and you saw Doug highlight it. He has the Thistlethorn Acorn. That improves him up to 5 of those acorns on the Acorn Blast. He obviously only needs 3 to get the stun, so it'll be a lot more consistent, and they'll be taking additional damage on the back end. They're looking for the purple buff invaded. Scream has to go to the sky right away as Snoopy gets the kill on the Vote.
I'm actually surprised. I feel like if Guy J maybe a little bit faster, if Snoopy had wanted to, they might have been able to continue going in there. And Scream dives down, gets a knock-up, finds a stun. There's a lot of lockdown still available for eUnited, but playing it safe is the better bet. You've already got 2 kills down onto Vote. Guy J's got to level up. He's almost at that Ring of Hecate, so that's going to maybe allow him to get aggressive, as you had highlighted earlier. And that is going to be the key for eUnited, I think, at least on the duo lane, to keep things going. Over here in solo, it is still very much just variety play Cthulhu, and as long as that goes well for you, it should be fine.
He has been bullied, though, forced to take a back. Has the TP, so he should be able to join them relatively quickly. Did make it hard for eUnited to get aggressive on that side of the map since they were walking to essentially a 3v3 without variety there to help, so they start to fall back. But now we're starting to see, I think what was your point, as GuyJ gets the banish onto Raffer, the Riptide, allows Raffer to make it out of there, so he's okay. But you were talking about how this kill that they initially got, that first blood, may not be a big deal if they can't turn it into more. But it looks like they can, as Variety now is in trouble over in solo. Has to use the ultimate to respond, gets the knockup onto Cheerio, and is continuing to battle this with Snoopy, who does pull Nika back in, but that ultimate allows him to make it out of there, and Variety just barely does not have the damage for the kill. So eUnited have to back up after getting that pressure.
And that showcases the key to killing Cthulhu isn't as easy as, oh, Cheerio ult, Nika, then execute. You have to have the damage to bring him down. Variety got low there, but was never within the threshold, so Nika was never able to find that turnaround. If they had had a little more burst, maybe if you had someone else rotating into the fight, or if they just had slightly faster cooldowns for themselves, they might have been able to pick up a kill onto Variety. I think for SSG, walking out with your lives, especially at this point in the game, is more than fine. Both of those gods are going to scale better into the late game to the point where a 2v1 like that, or even a 2v2 like that, should go more in their favor. So Variety can rest on his laurels for a little while, but I don't know if it's going to last long enough that he can just coast into this late game, especially since Cheerio is already showing that he wants to get aggressive on this solo side. I mean, if Vote's already down 0-2, you could maybe start ganking over there, but that Nemesis is going to find much more versatility against the Cthulhu than anybody that they're going to find on this long range.
Oh, I like this Gold Fury being started, but Scream comes down from the ultimate so early. I felt like he could have been using that ultimate as a zoning tool while they were on the objective, but perhaps it was just a bait from eUnited. They were trying to force in SSG, but I don't know if I like this at all. Raffer has now been banished. Herwin is in trouble in the back, and Cheerio gets the pick easily. Now all of a sudden, eUnited are in a bad fight. Instead of starting this off on their terms, they're kind of on the retreat. Scream does get the kill onto Vote, but Dardez responds by taking care of GuyJ. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of SSG.
I think benefiting SSG overall, I mean, you get the mid laner on top of the carry, and you trade carry for carry. So yes, blanket, it is better. But I also think it's that idea that, much like Freya going down there, for Vote being 0-3, at the end of the day, you're just waiting to get items online when you're playing a Hunter. It's very similar to Freya. You want attack speed, you're going to need that power, it's going to help you. But if you fall behind a little bit, it's not the end of the world. They're both level 9 right now. I think getting the kill onto GuyJ is much more worthwhile for SSG than killing Vote for the third time this game. So eUnited definitely need to maybe start trying to figure out a different target. Vote, and there's a certain point where the kill, field and bounty that you're going to get isn't going to field you anything. And if you can continually shut him down, yeah, you take him out of the game. But then Cheerio or Dardez, somebody else, continues going big in the fights.
And I think that's why that Gold Fury fight was so important, right? Because eUnited has done a good job of bullying out Vote, but it hasn't gotten a massive lead for GuyJ over there. He's a little ahead, but it's certainly not anything where you can hang your hat if you're eUnited. So they needed that fight to go their way, either getting some picks or in getting the objective, and eUnited ended up in this weird spot where they really didn't do either. And this feels to me like a larger, or maybe like symptomatic of the larger issue with eUnited, which is even when they have the right ideas or the leads, they're not always executing perfectly. But this Gold Fury going down is huge. They do still come back to it, grab the objective, and re-extend that lead.
Still Merlin, by the way. So apparently still does the whole kill objectives faster than anybody else in the game thing, and Herwin showcases that well. And that's actually, a conversation we've had several times, which has been, Herwin looks great on these picks like Yanis. He'll bring in things that nobody else is playing and look good on them. And every time we go, that's great, but what could he do on a meta god? Like, why don't we see him pick up the things like the Merlin? I think now maybe we're going to see him do exactly that.
Yeah, not the best fight there from Snoopy. He wanted the Blink Driving Strike to push Dardez back up, but instead gets dunked in return. Dardez gets a pretty easy kill. Variety is here, though, and perhaps a chance to get the return kill onto Dardez. If Snoopy dies to get the kill on the hop wall, then it's not so bad at the end after all. A 1-for-1, but favoring eUnited. But Scream in some trouble right there to try and close the gap. Nika can land the fatal strike. That's huge. Makes it a 2-for-1 in favor of SSG.
And a lot of ults have been expended. eUnited have nothing available to them. Although Raffer throwing up the walls there, not going to find the block for anything, so maybe just as much expended there by SSG. And that's, you catch Dardez right after his ult. The minute that whoop comes through from Gaijay, he's dead to rights. There's not much you can do as a Hebo without your ult to try and get away from 4 people on eUnited. So a good pickup for them, like you said. Worthwhile trading out Snoopy, but losing Scream does kind of shift things once again back in favor of SSG. Now they're starting to take these 2-for-1 trades that eUnited before were controlling and mitigating a lot of the damage and, well, at least the kill potential for SSG. Now it's starting to slip out of their hands. That Bancross Talon's a big power spike for Dardez. Whatever he gets next, I think, is going to make it even easier for him to fight off the likes of Scream. And so it's maybe starting to be a slippery slope. And we had highlighted this earlier. eUnited have a great draft that goes in the late game, but so do SSG.
This is a nice pick, though, onto Rapper. Scream able to complete the kill, but a 2-man stun from Nika. This guy's nuts with the Achilles close-range first ability, but I don't think Scream's done being aggressive. Dardez has used the ultimate, but the Rat turns back around, ults with the squad, and is fully disengaging, and Nika just closes the gap with the blink and gets the kill onto Scream. I mean, things look good for a moment for eUnited, but nothing comes cleanly for them. It's always being traded back as the boulder lands onto Dardez. Snoopy gets the kill, but now they're stuck right in the middle of SSG. Tyrio gets the kill into Hurwin in return, and it's the 2-for-0, or 2-for-2.
Good body block from Variety, though. Is going to stop that execute from coming in. Cherio looks like he should be able to get out. I don't know. His pathing is definitely not in the safe territory for Space Station, but he is fast because he does have that speed buff around. Even risking stopping for the blue buff. I love that SSG aren't really rolling over for eUnited here.
Not at all. Cheerio, I think perhaps recognizing that most of eUnited had sort of backed. Variety's ultimate was down. So if he had a little bit of backup there from Nico, which he did, then really it was favorable for them. So they strip away the blue buff on their way out. That's just good heads-up awareness from SSG. Yeah. And it's small things like that, Gord, which you're right to point out, that I think make this SSG team so hard. How many other teams in the middle of that fight where maybe it doesn't even go that well for them are still stripping away farm from you in the jungle? I mean, that's just great awareness of the state of the game from SSG. They also add the Pyromancer to it, and just like that, they're in the lead. You know, this looks good for United, but now it's SSG's.
90% of SMITE teams see their mid laner get melted the way Dardez did, and the F6 button comes up, right? Like, I mean, that's just the way it's going to go. And so I think being able to watch, that happen and still rely on just Cherio and Nika to jump back in. Like, you had already lost Raffer. He's just now respawning. Dardez gets eviscerated in front of you. Evaporated, I guess, is more accurate since he's water. And then they are just able to chase everyone down after that. If it wasn't for the body block from Variety, there would have been even more kills in their favor. And I think that just goes to show that SSG, I don't know if the term playing with their food is accurate because eUnited are putting up a good fight, but they've got themselves a small lead, and they definitely are showing a better team fight synergy right now than what we're seeing out of eUnited.
They got to show us an ability to use some of these strong picks to regroup, because I feel like too often this is what we see from this squad, where a lot of their ideas are correct, they're obviously mechanically there, but they end up misstepping in these team fights and they're not in sync or over-committing for a kill, and it ends up getting traded back favorably by the opposition. It just has not been an easy phase for this eUnited roster, and now it's not just Gold they're down, but Guy, who actually started off with a lead, is a little bit behind Vote now, and Scream on the early game. Ratatosker is behind Cheerio on this Nemesis, who's 3-0-1. Variety is way behind Nika. This has gotten out of control.
I don't want to disagree with myself, but earlier I said killing Vote so many times is not going to get you anywhere. I do think you could still have some pressure. The fact that he's caught up to this Nemesis and Cherio's still allowed to do what he is, I just haven't seen enough from Scream.
But did Guy solo Vote? No, he had some help from Scream, who was over there on the left-hand side. So it was the 2v1. I won't panic on that one. But Cheerio did get the solo on Hurlwind underneath the Tier 1 tower in mid. There's the teleport from Variety. He is showing up to make sure the Tier 1 tower doesn't go down. Meanwhile, it looks like Scream and Guy are considering the Fury. They rethink it as SSG are on their way, or at the very least Nika is, to make sure this does not go down for free.
That hasten ring online for Gaijay, it's going to make things just more awkward all around for anyone to try and fight Freya away. But I don't think Cheerio and Radford seem to get the memo. They are not stopping.
Not at all. Continuing to get aggressive in the middle lane. Radford has already used the Rivers of Butte. There's the knock-up from Scream, but not a whole lot of value there. It kind of clips onto the back of Nika. Nika, and he's immediately out of there yet again. But he's got the Jotuns. I mean, this is a build with some CDR in it. He can afford to use this ultimate, as Dardes has to use the beads. He's pulled in by Snoopy. Not able to find much else on the back side of it, but Dardes, without those beads, is a good deal more vulnerable.
I think it's a big win for eUnited to get rid of that, but honestly, I'd say bigger for SSG, knowing Variety doesn't have that ult available. Oni Fury's up here. A lot of the teams are looking at it right now. We've seen most of SSG kind of peek into the pit. Nika has rotated over for that. eUnited are looking to be more defensive more than anything here. Sentry Ward in the pit to make sure they have vision on it. But this is good, at least for a few more seconds, maybe another minute here. If SSG can worm out one more fight, get somebody on eUnited out of there, then I think they put themselves in position to get the Oni Fury, which gives them a lot of pressure that doesn't necessarily turn the tide in their favor as much as it does start giving them that advantage to start pressuring eUnited in the right places. Force GuyJ to make an awkward decision, or force Heroin into an awkward position, just to make sure that you can find these picks that then open up the right-hand side of the map and maybe trying to find something like a Pyromancer or a Fire Giant thereafter.
United are definitely going to start up this Gold Fury. Worth noting very quickly, look at Raffer's build. He knows it's the magic damage they're worried about. Let's see if it can help him here. Rivers of Youth does cut off everyone but Snoopy from the objective, so the Fury does get reset. Whoa. Snoopy, though, buries Dardes with a boulder over the top, and they don't let both get through the Bifrost. GuyJ is there. Cheerio does get the kill onto Scream, but this is finally a good fight for eUnited in the later stages of the game. Can they lock down Cheerio is the next big question. Into the ultimate goes Variety, but Cheerio uses the dashes to make it back out of here. That leaves Heroin alone in the backline, so Nika gets the kill. Somehow SSG turned this into a good fight.
I don't know, Nika had to use his ult to escape, now doesn't have the execute, and he's going to lose his life for it.
But they at least managed to save Cheerio. Gotta be one of their most important people to keep it live at this point with that substantial lead he has over Scream. But still, hard not to acknowledge that this fight goes 3 for 2 in favor of eUnited, and they should be able to get this Oni Fury on the back of it, Gore. They're finally starting to show us they can win some of these later game fights.
Snoopy doing his best to keep Raffer from getting anywhere nearby. It would be so unfortunate to get such a good team fight from eUnited, and then to lose the Oni Fury at the end because Raffer decided to throw a bubble over the wall or something. So I like the defensive play from them, and I mean, you kind of highlighted it, I think, best of all, but it was, can you turn these, top-tier picks on eUnited into something, or is the execution not going to be there? Well, GuyJ is 5-1-2. I think probably better than anything you could have asked that he was the one who got interviewed coming into this. We got to talk about him yesterday on the waiting room. Like, he is the one on eUnited right now. Him and Snoopy, the duo lane as a totality, are the ones where it's been question marks. I mean, Snoopy hasn't had the easiest transition here into support so far in Phase 2. GuyJ didn't have the easiest start to this phase either. And now, 20 minutes in, they're still 1,000 gold behind, give or take, but they're dominating the game. They're in control of it. They're making sure the pace is what they want. And Snoopy's having a phenomenal game. GuyJ's been able to clean up a lot of kills, some of which have been solo kills. This is a good transition into the late game, especially against a team like SSG.
They're still behind on a lot of spots on the map. Variety behind Nika. Scream still about 3 levels, 2.5 levels down to Cheerio. And Heroin just that bit behind Dardes. You said it, it's really this dual lane for United that is keeping them in this game. And there's the blink stun from Scream. It's on the Raffer, though, of all targets, but they've got the damage to burn him down quickly. Scream takes care of him, and now they've got the 5v4 advantage. They don't have to worry about the River's Rebuke, but will they start up this Fire Giant? It still feels risky. Do they know that Boat's not here? He's way on the left side of the map, so they've got the 5v3. Perhaps Scream can confirm that now with the aerial view. He knows there's only 3 of them over here to play defense, but Boat is going to take the Bifrost to rejoin them. Scream won't get any kind of knockup out of it, and the Fire Giant has been reset. So United not going to try to take the fight or the objective. They're just going to retreat.
I was going to talk about how great it would be to be able to burn that Fire Giant down. You've got Heroin, who's on Merlin, who's great at doing exactly that. We've seen it come into play a couple of times this game already around the Furies, but not enough damage. I think just a little too early. It's that awkward moment. At 20 minutes, 22 minutes, you can still kill a Fire Giant, no problem, if you're grouped. But you have 4 people dancing around it as eUnited, and you're not quite in that late game state. I mean, Merlin's level 18. He's definitely going to be hitting hard, but just now finished off that Polynomicon, so he maybe didn't have the quite damage burst that he needed to fully force that fight. but burning Cherio's ults in the process, really solid, forcing Vote to make an uncomfortable rotation when he wanted to be farming. Granted, he still hits level 20 prior to Gaijay, so he's on the right track. He finished off that Heartseeker, has Crusher. He's going for more ability-based Heimdall, which can hit hard, but when you look at what he's bringing, maybe in the middle of a team fight, he's going to do a lot. But if you're looking at the guy to try and hit those last 2 autos that you need, maybe it's going to suffer there overall. The Gjallarhorn going to be able to do a lot of damage for him. His sword going to be able to burst down some people. And, of course, his ult going to be able to burn people down. But there's a little bit of room for error here, I think, in Vote's build.
We'll see if he can find a way to extract the most value possible. So far, he's at the bottom of the player damage charts at the very least. And really, with the Heimdall, generally his poke is one of the stronger aspects. We'll see if that ends up coming more into play in the team fight stage. I'm just very surprised eUnited kind of held back there. I understand they got that pick onto Rapper, and maybe they didn't want to overcommit and get punished, but you'd think with Scream up in the ultimate, they should at least be able to favorably trade out a couple of cooldowns, but still, they elect to play it a bit safer. They've brought this game back towards even, which is still a pretty good spot for them. They still have a strong late game draft. There's no reason, I suppose, to get too far out of pocket, but SSG now the ones in control of the positioning around the Fire Giant. In fact, Raffer even starting it up at least a little bit. Doesn't look like they're heavily committing. This might be to try and force eUnited in.
And I think, honestly, this is where SSG maybe get a little more deadly. Nika, Cherio, Dardes, and Vote all in one area together. The one thing they're going to have is AoE damage. Like, Vote in a 1v1 against Gaijay, there's a reason he's 1-5. He's not going to be able to turn that around too easily and often with this kind of build. But in a team fight-oriented area, Gaijay gets bursted down because he's looking for the one-shot kills or the 3-shot kills, I guess, really, when it's Freya. But Dardes is going to be able to hit him with some AoE. Vote's going to hit him with some AoE. Cherio, maybe not as big as their AoE, but it's still an ability that can hit multiple people there with a slice and dice. So they could potentially lock down this Freya pretty easily with the way SSG are planning this teamfight phase.
That's a good stun from Raffer. Certainly should have been able to get a pull there, I believe, onto Nika and bring him back into the rest of the squad, but stun Snoopy in the middle of the combo to prevent it. Still virtually dead even at this point in the game. Relics available for everyone. And I wonder with eUnited if they are going to try to be the aggressors here, because Gore, how do you, I mean, I don't know if I love their initiation. Like, perhaps they're reliant on Scream for it to work, but if they do, everyone can be ready. Snoopy can maybe find a pull, but those aren't the easiest either. I mean, maybe they got to wait for Spacestation to kind of come into them a little bit, and they can just kind of have the counter initiation.
I mean, there's always that question of whether or not you can just have Variety run at them, hold W, and then do Cthulhu things, but even still, maybe. That's risky. I think it might come down to the Blink. Like you said, Scream is a good initiator, gets a knock-up onto the backline, it can force Nika and Cherio to, or sorry, Nika and Raffer to turn around and maybe pay more attention to the likes of Dardes and Vote and try to keep them alive as opposed to getting aggressive. And if you can pull that attention away from your own backline for eUnited, I think that's the setup for Snoopy to move forward. Maybe find a Blink push or a Blink knockup, which is going to be even more difficult than just, I think, a blanket knockup at this point. But it gets that Hercules back in the game, which at level 15, he can still be a menace, and I want to see more out of him.
Pyromancer low, and SSG are able to secure it. We're 26 minutes into this one now. And SSG have been able to secure one more neutral objective, but neither team feels comfortable starting up a fight at the Fire Giant. Scream went off on his own a little bit, pushed the wave out from near the Tier 2 tower over in left, got the Oracle's Vision on that Fury, and is kind of chilling somewhere in the mid. He knows he can join the fight quickly with the ultimate if he can be on other parts of the map. But it's definitely interesting here at this point. If eUnited aren't going to be the one that starts this fight, I mean, SSG have a lot of really good tools. They've got Raffer's ultimate that could potentially get this fight going, or maybe even just Cherio, once they feel like they've isolated a target, can ult them, and that could be sort of a go button. These two teams, though, feel balanced on a knife's edge, and eUnited know they need this win. I gotta feel like there's a lot pressuring these guys right now to be able to execute.
And you have to look at the state of the map, too. I mean, you want to talk about pressure, it's all in favor of SSG, right? I mean, if you're eUnited, you've managed to keep the gold mostly even, but you have this massive wave on left that's about to push down your tier 2. You haven't gotten a single tower. Meanwhile, you're missing all of your tier 1s. The win state right now for SSG is much clearer and easier to execute on in a very small threshold of time than what eUnited have. eUnited having to burn through even a tower as low as that right-hand tier 1 for SSG. It's still going to take some time, and it still deviates from getting to a Phoenix, whereas SSG, especially if they can get a Fire Giant, should be able to run down mid pretty easily and find themselves some success.
Variety has gone into the ultimate. Cheerio is in the background looking for Guy, but Guy goes up to the sky with the Valkyrie's discretion. He is an execute threshold, but Nika cannot make it way there, and Guy is sustaining up with Typhon Spang and the Lifesteal Boots plus Akade. My man is full HP and ready to rock. But eUnited are the ones that used all of their ultimates. Space Station can re-engage with a lot of tools still in their back pocket.
You remember that time SSG pretty much all-in on Gaijay and then Gaijay just shrugged it off? That was insane. What kind of healing is that for him to be full health back into this? And now he's going to be able to come back in. Cooldowns should be up. They can get aggressive, but like you said, no ults available, whereas SSG, they have plenty to burn.
Plus, no Aegis for Guy the next time he steps in either. This won't be the easiest thing in the world. SSG are able to secure the Fire Giant, and I know that they didn't get a kill, but I think they won that fight because of how much resources they got out of eUnited just to barely get the defense. So SSG, recognizing it, strip away the objective, and now they have all of the decisions about where they want to go on the map and get aggressive. But Boat has been grabbed, but they can't capitalize on it. Instead, it's Nika that steps forward and gets the two-man stun.
They've got that Fire Giant sustain, and now those ults, they're coming into the equation. That's going to be at least 2 clean kills for Vote.
Wow.
I'm sorry I said anything about him. Of course he's going to come into the late game and make sure he makes a splash.
Vote looking good. Now SSG should be able to push down this right side, not just get the tier 2, but potentially even grab this right side Phoenix. Whirlwind is over in the left. We do see Scream taking his back now, but they got to make sure they're in position. This right side Phoenix is going down. I mean, maybe they felt they couldn't have defended it either way up against Fire Giant, there only being 3 of them, but at least make SSG work for it. They take the right side Phoenix easily, and they're going to keep right on pushing. That's a great blink pull there from Snoopy, showing off the mechanics a little bit as Scream goes up to the sky, but SSG are trying to all-in commit for the end. They have the Titan down to half HP. Scream makes it back towards the fountain, but no one on SSG appears to be low. They're comfortable putting the damage onto the Titan, and just like that, it's a game win for Space Station.
I mean, they'll take it, right? That's kind of seemingly out of nowhere. I mean, it went from 0 to 100 incredibly fast for them. But a lot of it, again, goes back to that game state. You look back around that Fire Giant fight, and it's 6 towers standing for SSG, 3 towers standing for eUnited. They're just able to take that and turn that in their favor. I didn't think I was going to see the game end that fast after they got a Fire Giant, but they got enough of a win, and they felt confident in their ability to zone out the rest of eUnited that they just kind of ran for it, and the damage numbers were there.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? The Fire Giant was taken with essentially 0 kills. It was just that they got so much in the trade, they were able to pick it up, and then United kind of stepped up afterwards and got bullied. The 2 for 0 meant they could take the right side Phoenix and just go for the end. It's a crazy way for that one to end, but Space Station always seemed to find a way to get it done. We'll get it back to the desk, though, have them break it down from here.
That's got to be a tough one, I think, for eUnited. You are in this one until the bitter end. You're long lane. You're kind of new-look long lane. I don't know if you can still call it that. This many games into the phase. Had a fantastic performance aggro. Buico Acherio, I think, was able to do this game. Nico's well out of that solo lane. The opposite side of the map from where SSG were losing really took things over.
eUnited did a lot of things really, really well through the first 27 or so minutes of the game. And then just one fight, they get a little bit poked. They give up priority in that Fire Giant pit, and the Umoja sustain comes through. I don't think SSG ever win this game in the fashion that they did without a Umoja on their side. It was the healing through the Fire Giant fight, the healing on top of the Titan that enables them to end when they did. But don't get it mistaken. In the early game, it was what Cheerio and what Nico were doing that kept SSG in it, because eUnited really got off to a great start in that duo lane. Vote was getting bullied really, really consistently. This Freya got off to a good start for Gaijay, and then ultimately it was just eUnited's duo lane getting a little bit caught out after the Fire Giant that ends the game for SSG.
Now, I want to ride along kind of with Cheerio, but flip the coin a little bit here. Scream 3, 4, and 4, so affected, 7 of the 11 kills that eUnited was able to get. 0 for 2 today is this Ratatosker out of the jungle. Do you think that's more indicative of the game state surrounding this rat? Or is maybe Ratatosker not the priority pick that some of these teams think that he might be in the current state?
It's a fair question. I think it is worth noting that the two teams that are underdogs coming in are the two teams that played the Ratatosker. But at the same time, you just look at Ratatosker and what he's going to bring to the table in a vacuum in comparison to what a Nemesis is going to bring in value in a vacuum to the other side. I think it's pretty clear that Ratatosker is not at the same level as someone like Nemesis, but Scream had a good game. He did fall behind in this game, but that's really because Cherio was just finding kill after kill after kill on basically every gank he was going for. I think Scream played just fine on this Ratatosker, and I think United as a whole played just fine. They just made one big mistake after losing a small skirmish, and SSG punished them perfectly. It's kind of what SSG's MO is in my mind.
That's what they do.
They build slow, small advantages, and then they end the game in the blink of an eye. They really snuff you out quickly. eUnited, if they can find a way to make that engagement around fire go their way, we're talking about a completely different game.
As an average length game, so in that regard, maybe United happy despite the loss after game number 1. SSG only need one more to tie it up here in the first place slot. Let's see what picks and bans look like. Maybe give us an idea of what direction these two teams are leaning. Remember, the high priority bans on the flip side were a little more targeted from both of these teams. SSG taking a little poke at Hurrywind with the Giannis to round out their ban phase. Of course, these two teams are flipped now. SSG will have that first pick slot. United, of course, then answer with a couple. But it was the Aphrodite Hera, and maybe more advantageous to be in that type of position in the second pick slot. You can afford maybe aggro to take a few more of those shots toward Dardes with a lot of power available on the other side of the first pick.
I think United would be stoked to be able to repeat the top half of this draft perfectly, because I think they came away with a really, really good draft. It's that bottom half bans that I think they would want to change, and that's really credit to Spacestation in the way that they threw United for a loop. They throw that Hebo that has consistently been in the jungle for them in the mid, and then last pick the Nemesis. That clearly caught United off guard. And I don't think that's lack of prep by United. That's just a new wrinkle for SSG, so you got to give them credit where it's due in that spot. But if SSG don't want a top 3 Nem this time around, and United gets to ban something like Nemesis Achilles or something along those lines, or Nemesis and something else on the other side, then you should be very, very happy with that. If SSG go back to the Emoja, which I imagine they will, because Raffer had a good game on it this time around, I would expect United to immediately grab Freya Cthulhu. At the very least, they grab Cthulhu. Maybe they experiment with Gaijay on something else, but I think I'm fine with the United just reprising the top half entirely.
That's right. They will be able to with the double answer back there. So back in that second pick slot here are eUnited with Aphrodite and Hera taking that back seat. I think a great look at this Emojo is Cthulhu, Freya for eUnited there in game number 1. They have half of that locked in right now. Fell a little bit behind from the rest of SSG. It wasn't able to kind of keep eUnited over the edge. But I think if there's one thing you're looking at from eUnited from game 1, again, to kind of bring it back up, it's that Snoopy and Gaijay, all things considered, had great games. So I'm not surprised to see them giving Gaijay this Freya yet again.
Early game was good for Guy. Late game, a bad decision. Might not have been his fault. That might have been the call from all of United to try and get that pick on the right lane after the Fire Giant call, but try not to let SSG reset. That's just kind of the way it goes. And it looks like SSG is willing to kind of do the exact same thing in this exact same spot. Hebo Achilles right away, yet again. Nika looked phenomenal on this pick last time. If I'm a United, I'm going Hercules, and I'm snap banning Nemesis. Just don't give SSG the option, or pick the Nem for yourself, because you do have that first pick coming out of the second ban phase. It might not want to because of the Hebo on the other side, but I think that's still a totally fine place to go.
Still support-minded, not quite Hercules, though. The Sobek now locked in for Snoopy out of that support role. So you're looking at a Sobek Freya long lane here. Do you like the Sobek pickup as much as you might have liked the Hercules getting locked in?
I just think Hercules is really, really good. Now, the way that United plays the map, Snoopy is not snowballing these leads as much as some other Hercules. You know, you'll see Mike for Ghost really be a little bit more greedy with the farm, try and get ahead if he gets off to an early start. Though he also has the capability to play from that typical support deficit. This tells me that eUnited wants to focus more on the team fighting phase. They think they'll be able to get through the early game without that pressure from Snoopy on the Hercules, and instead can bring a little bit more to the team fight. Part of me does wonder if this is going to be a Cthulhu support once again in Sobek solo. That's really where Sobek has been more popular in the SPL this season, but if I had to make a guess, I'd say it is Sobek support Cthulhu solo.
And another Ratatosker here for eUnited. I think we kind of look back at what Scream was doing in Game 1. Again, it wasn't this overwhelming impact in the early that we figured a Rat might have. Cheerio just did such a great job on that Nemesis, keeping up, as you pointed out. But looked good enough, I think, for eUnited that they're going to feel comfortable bringing that one back. So largely unchanged composition from Game number 1, despite the Sobek locked in there for the Hercules. Do you like going back to the Rat, though?
I think it's fine. I think that it's a little bit counterintuitive to what I thought they were doing with the Sobek pick, which is prioritize their mid to late game team fights. Ooh. And then they might take a jungler that's a little bit more suited for that as well. But like we were talking about in set number 1, I don't think it's this 23 minutes hit and Rat all of a sudden loses base damage. With how good itemization is for Assassins into the mid to late game, you've got Sledge for your early to mid game. You can still really leverage that pressure really effectively. And then you just get into Heartseeker and Erendite later on, and you'll still one-tap people. I don't think it's a big deal for Ratatosker to go late anymore. I think it can still work fine for eUnited.
And now with the Uhr being locked in, we'd imagine that would go towards the mid lane. Freya then still over in the long lane. Much more common to see things there. Kali, to maybe match a little bit of that late scaling that this Freya is going to provide, what do you expect from Cheerio here this game?
Cherry is one of the iconic Kali players in the entire SPL. I think it's a great pick for him in that 9th, 10th pick slot. Get it right to round out your draft. I thought we were going to see SSG switch it up, put Cherry back on the Hevo, and get something else for Dardes in mid, but they want that potential to just win the game instantly late if Cheerio happens to have a good fight. And that's certainly a viable strategy, especially against a team like eUnited that's still trying to find their identity and be that cohesive unit. Kali will chew up uncoordinated teams in just a matter of seconds, so it's a good idea, I think, from SSG. Mostly surprised they're willing to put Vote back on the Heimdall after such a really, really rough early game for him. This time Rom was available. I thought we were going to see a Rom for sure.
SSG versus eUnited. eUnited, they need to win back-to-back. SSG, just one more. Let's get Game 2 underway.
Thanks again, Dolson and Agro. Still Finch and Gore here on the call, as so far in this set, eUnited have appeared to go toe-to-toe with SSG, but as soon as SSG turn on the Jets, the game gets out of control. Let's see if here, with maybe a different look here for eUnited, they still do have a lot of the same picks, the Rat, the Cthulhu, the Freya, but instead it's Herwind on this Uller, Snoopy on this Sobek. We'll see if maybe this can make a difference for them. They can turn this set around.
And I actually like the Sobek here. It's weird just because his balance isn't going to come from his setup, being equal to Hercules. I think he's going to be a little lesser. If you miss that pluck, it's almost the end of the world for you, especially late game. But has very same early game kill potential, but he brings in anti-heal, 50% there on Sickening Strike. So being able to come in and maybe stop Raffer and Vote from having as much sustain in this lane might translate into a much more successful late game. If you're looking at potential, brawlers, beat sticks, things like that to help deal with it, I think it's just going to fit hand in hand with team fight strategies that will stop SSG from backing off and healing up. And overall, it's just going to provide some sustain for himself over here as well, which is going to help GuyJ get off to another good start.
An interesting difference in the starts here for these two teams as well, Gore. You saw that Snoopy used the Hog on the camp, the purple buff, to make sure they cleared it as soon as possible. But I think Raffer and Vote wanting to do exactly this, freeze the wave near their tower line, recognizing they were certainly going to lose pressure. They went right over to the Alpha and used it there instead to make sure they can speed up that clear and then get back here in time. I like the start for SSG. We've seen this a couple times when you know you're going into a matchup where you're going to lose pressure. And I think that's about the smartest way you can start this duo lane off.
And I love it because, again, Vote I mean, he was 1 in 5 before he got that double kill towards the end of the game, and a lot of his pressure, a lot of what he brought at the end of the game was all in his items.
Cheerio, though, could fall for first blood. Snoopy comes in and kind of snakes it there at the last moment. I think Scream might have had it, but hey, kill secured either way. And eUnited get onto the board first yet again. But remember, they got first blood in game 1, and it seemed like they were struggling to figure out how to generate an actual bigger lead in that game. Let's see if maybe they can do a better job here.
I think it's a good call to try and shut down specifically Cheerio. I mean, last game I said, great, get the first blood onto GuyJ, you're getting this Freya ahead. But now I think actually forcing this Khalid to fall behind is maybe one of your better bets. Slow her down and keep Cheerio on his toes throughout this entire game, mainly because then he's not going to be able to hit that late game strategy that you're going to have when you have Khalid. He's one of the best ones that we have in the league, so obviously he's going to look good if he can get back there. But you still need a few items online before you can start hitting those points. Now, I think that's the strong suit SSG have. Once again, they wait until 20-25 minutes, and there's not going to be an easy way to win a fight against them. But if you can stop them from hitting that point that soon, force them to be 25-30 minutes into the game before you start seeing that big turnaround, eUnited can take control of the game earlier, and that's where the map state is going to come into mind. Always watch where these towers are, because that's what gave SSG that small advantage last time. If eUnited can maybe get some more pressure in all of these lanes earlier, then maybe those tier 1s won't be as pesky as they were towards the end of game 1.
And you brought up how SSG used those towers to kind of keep the game even though eUnited were probably ahead in terms of just gold they generated off the map. And I think that's pretty emblematic of what eUnited have struggled with as well. They're not cleanly getting their wins in these fights. How often did we see them in the last game get a kill and then trade one back or trade two back sometimes, or maybe it came at the cost of a tower? But Scream might be looking to change that. He goes up into the ultimate right away. Their new purple buff if he wants to crash down. Rapper is the target. They have him body blocked between the Sobek and the Ratatosker, and that's an easy second kill for Scream. And this time, doesn't have to worry about Cheerio on the Nemesis.
And again, anything that gets the duo lane further ahead is always going to pay off for them. But it is the question of who's keeping pace. A little bit ahead of Cheerio is now Scream, so he gets that little bit of an advantage, and he showcases why this Ratatosker is good early on. But we saw that last game, and it just kind of started to disappear from him. I want him to keep that pressure going, because otherwise it will start to derail for eUnited. Right now, you've already shown that your ult is great for ganks. Just try to find more of those throughout the rest of the game, and I don't see anything going too horrifically wrong for you.
Yeah, I mean, you heard Aggro on the desk talking about how Rat's viability into the later stages of the game is way higher than it used to be, right? Like, Rat's not just going to drop off the face of the map anymore, but it did feel like he did in Game 1, right? Where Scream seemed, at times, hesitant to go in with the ultimate, and that could be anything, right? It could be a team calling not to go in, we don't like the fight, or maybe, he didn't like his chances, whatever it was. It did seem as though the later the game went, the less we got from Scream. I think the Rat can be stronger as long as eUnited can play around.
I mean, knockups are one of the strongest forms of CC in my mind, especially in SMITE, and I think that Cheerio is going to end up suffering from that kind of thing late game.
Cheerio blinked in, got the two-man stun to start this, and screams and execute threshold, but Cheerio is the one chasing him out, gets the counter blink in order to disengage, and that was a close call for eUnited. And this is part of what makes Spacestation so scary to me. We saw this last game too. It feels like this team never lets the fact that they're behind somewhere else or anywhere stop them from getting aggressive. Rapper does get plucked back though towards Guy, using the River's Fugue to get away. There's the Valkyrie's discretion to chase, but it just barely wasn't enough. The Riptide's getting him out of range.
And he has just enough of a health potion ticking that he's going to feel somewhat comfortable here, but I mean, under 50 health walking away from that one, you're not going to tell me he was not sweating it. I mean, you are nervous walking out of that one. But again, it comes down to the fact that with this Sobek, I think shutting down Raffer will be a little easier early on. They haven't been able to successfully do it outside of the one time Scream was over here. But, again, 50% anti-heal, you can't scoff at it. It's such a good stat to have on just one ability, and I think it's going to end up helping them out. In the middle of a team fight, you hit 3 people as Snoopy with Sickening Strike, and it's going to be able to slow people down, at least in terms of the healing and sustain. And when Lifesteal is already a pretty big stat right now, I think it's going to help out eUnited as a whole.
Spacestation show up and eUnited give up the objective. Very likely the right call there this early in the game. If you're taking damage from the Fury and the enemy, pretty hard to imagine can come out on top. So eUnited give up the Ghost for now and elect to kind of fall back for just a little bit. But they're still the team out in front. A little bit less than it was. You know, they were about 1,000, maybe a little bit more up. That has shrunk just a little bit, but certainly still here in a good spot.
Nothing that seems to be changing for SSG specifically. I think eUnited have the same ability to get aggressive as Scream's going to showcase right here.
Didn't quite find the ultimate, but they don't need it. Scream able to cut off the escape, force Nika back up into Variety, and that basically guarantees the kill. It's now 3 on the board for eUnited, so yet again, getting off to a quick start in this early game, and a lot of it is around Scream on this rat. Cheerio has now been stunned, has the counter stun, and Scream is low on mana, but do they need mana? They can keep it the chase. Cheerio avoids getting caught in the mire, and is looking to stick around. I love this for Cheerio. He's got Zardes here to help, and they're looking to fight.
Still had his ult available. I was wondering if they'd go in a little more aggressive, especially with the TP, but it's the dual lane. Instead, they locked down Snoopy. And what I was actually thinking was that SSG, especially compared to eUnited, maybe don't have the same ability to get as aggressive as eUnited want to. Scream is going to be able to open up so many more plays than Cheerio, especially at level 7 for a Kali. I expect Cheerio to, again, keep doing what he's been doing. Every time I look at the minimap, he's somewhere in their jungle just farming as much as he can. He will occasionally look for the ganks and maybe the saves, the fights, whatever whatever comes up for him on the side of eUnited. But for the most part, I expect him to just relax, try to get to this late game state, get a couple of items online, and then get aggressive.
Oh, and secures the red buff. Fortunate as SSG were right around the corner Boat and Raffer, but now the gank onto Mika is on again. Fatal Strike this time used to get away, but Scream closes the gap with the dash. Now it's Variety here, but Cheerio is on the way, and I think eUnited recognizing it. We're looking for the retreat, but there's the stun. Cheerio putting some decent damage in and knows just how close he has him to death, but can't afford to commit. That is 2 members in solo that narrowly avoid death.
It feels like Cheerio just has a vendetta against Scream right now. Almost every time he gets aggressive, it's only against this Ratatoskr. And even now, I mean, the blink committed for it, that's right. A lot just to try and find that kill. I don't know if it's worth it.
Well, if he had gotten it, maybe, but certainly not here where he didn't. GuyJ gets the kill in the 2v2 in left as Scream and Variety are on the full retreat. That was Zardes and Mika that stepped forward and forced them to fall back. So now we can see eUnited up a little bit closer to about 2,000 gold, a little bit less than that. GuyJ and Snoopy using their pressure in the left side to come over and pressure this red buff out, strip that. As Heroin is getting aggressive on a Zardes in the middle lane, who does have the ultimate available. No, he doesn't. Zardes didn't have it. And Scream able to get an easy cleanup kill onto the Habwa.
Man, what's that thing you put on the end of a fishing line? Like you're going fishing, you need something that the fish will bite. Oh, right, bait. That's what Scream was there. Low health, low mana, a very easy, seemingly, kill to try and get. Everyone on SSG just seemed to go ahead and fight down on that one. I mean, you know, Cheerio goes in too deep. Then you have Zardes making this big rotation and ends up staying a little too deep because Scream's just so close to dead. But now he's 4-0-1 Finch. And so the jungler, you know, we said we wanted to see more out of him, and SSG are just kind of giving him the kills that he needed to see. I haven't seen Scream, you know, outside of maybe 2 of these, really try to pick up the kill. He just happens to be in the areas SSG decide to throw their lives away.
And he's been the beneficiary of it. The good news is, though, this is getting to a big enough lead to where we can start to see eUnited try to flex it, I feel like, around the map a bit more. Perhaps look for some more invades, look for these Gold Fury fights and force them in. It's a 4,000 experience lead for eUnited, which is huge. It's also right around a 3,000 gold lead, a little bit less than that. So eUnited are in a good spot. GuyJ and Snoopy seem to have righted the ship over there in that long lane and gotten Guy back out in front over Vote. So now this Freya can rotate into fights and feel comfortable too. And I know that Rat's not going to fall off late, but it's just scary if you kind of move into the late game where Cheerio's getting ahead. I feel like I want to see United step on the gas even a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like, with Kali, anytime she gets this chin size online, things change. And they change pretty dramatically at that. So you have to be careful, especially because Cheerio, I feel like right now might just be looking to steal experience away, but if he can get GaiJ to fall behind, then that Freya's not going to hit as hard.
Right about this kick. They did a lot of damage for Cheerio, but Heroin punishes him summarily on the back end. That's what Heroin, or not Heroin, but Uller damage with the Jotun's Transcendence can do. Able to put Cheerio down before the ult can come out. And remember, Cheerio does not have beads with this start. He went for Blink right out the gate, and that's probably part of why he's struggling making it to that level 12 mark. He doesn't have that extra CC immunity, as United are near this Gold Fury, but Scream's going up. They want to try and dive.
And they're already 3,000 gold ahead eventually. This is one of those moments, last game I was timid to talk about the lead they had. After seeing what they were successfully able to do, I mean, even if they just kept it even, I think it was good for them. Now, using Scream's ult, it did push Dardes back, but he didn't find anything off of it. I don't know, SSG can definitely fight in here.
But eUnited secured the Gold Fury. I think we can finally say that this is looking like the kind of early game that eUnited needed. They're much closer to that 4,000 gold lead now, 4,500 experience, controlling these neutral objectives, defending their farm, and getting aggressive. But Cheerio diving in the middle lane has the ultimate alive, so he is able to get the kill, but not the full reset. The second he comes out of the ultimate, Scream gets the return kill. But Snoopy, trying to fight up against 3, has the help from Guy over the wall with the Valkyrie's discretion. That makes it 2 for 1. eUnited are finally starting to bring it towards SSG.
And Vote having to use his ult just to reposition there. Didn't connect on the Snoopy the way he wanted to. It looks like they should get out of here, but Nika is just dead in the water.
Nika able to use that Riptide to escape, but the charge fray even better. Snoopy making the Sobek look good, but they didn't have the damage to secure it. The Fatal Strike allows for Nika to reposition. He makes his way out of there. But eUnited looking better and better with each passing minute here in this game. Gore, they need to keep this going, because I feel like things are only going to get harder the later the game goes, but right now their trajectory's looking good.
I'm still worried though, Finch. Again, like the control, the trajectory looks great, but there is a certain moment, and it's going to be maybe the next item, maybe 2 more items, what have you, for Cheerio. It's just going to be a switch that flips for SSG, and all of a sudden this kill that, was very easy for you against this Kali early on just turns into someone who's shredded 2 of your backline members all of a sudden, and you have no idea how to stop him. Cheerio pops his ult and finds a triple kill or something insane like that. It's those little moments and the thing that SSG has relied on consistently this year that makes me still nervous for eUnited. It's not just getting a lead, it's how you handle it. And I'm looking at the map, and I'm still seeing a bunch of towers that are standing in the favor of SSG. Granted, they haven't been able to take anything down on eUnited, so they're still equal there. It's the objective control and map control that matters most.
Rapper's been caught out, though. 4 members of eUnited have him surrounded in a dark alley. That's easy for United to pick up one more. They head right back towards the Pyromancer. And this unease we're feeling towards eUnited have established an actual serious lead at this point. It's earned by Spacestation. They were the runner-ups at that Phase 1 playoffs, one of our very best teams in Phase 1 and looking just as strong here in Phase 2, whereas eUnited has struggled to consistently find success. I think that the apprehension we're feeling, it's well-earned. Spacestation proved time and time again an ability to come back even from positions like this.
That's just something that they've got. And again, when you're in the top 4 of the league right now, I think it's always going to be that way if you're ever down. I mean, I remember feeling that way even when Sanguine were beating Ghost at that time, because it just seemed so different from what we had seen. But it's Scream right now who's making a huge difference. It's not a kill right there, but forcing Dardes out is huge.
Got the beads and ultimate from him as Scream being hunted down by Cheerio in the jungle, recognizing he has the opportunity if he can get just a little bit closer. Scream misses the stun though, but Cheerio so far from his, the stun would be all that he would need to clean this kill up. Has used the lead to close the gap, but Nika earned that one, uses the Fatal Strike to turn around and shuts down Scream. Snoopy on the way out of there. He's low HP in the back, and the Space Station have finally found themselves in a 5v4 position.
And they finally find themselves, even though they use a lot of their ults, what feels like in control of a fight. Scream forced out of that one early on. Granted, it cost a lot just to get the one kill, but you pulled something back in your favor. It's still 3-10, but those are the small fights and skirmishes that I think we've kind of been waiting for. They're the small ones that, hey, this is going to turn into farm, this is going to turn into map control, this is going to turn into SSG stripping away your lead if you're eUnited. And then we'll see the fight where Cherio or Dardez or Vote or Nika, someone gets a multi-kill. And that's the threat that eUnited, I think, have to deal with. If they bite down too much food in the form of a fight with SSG, then you end up like Scream, where you're just trying to figure out the best way out of this scenario. One way is to Cherio, where you're going to die, or one way is to Nika, where you're going to die. And one option gives you more ults used. It's the best of the worst-case scenarios for you, and unfortunately, that's all he had there.
At the very least, getting some additional resources out of SSG to confirm that kill. But this has been an excellent game from Scream so far. 5-1 and 3 from Urata Tosker. Really is exactly what you're looking for. Has the Brawlers and the Erendite now finished as well, so that's significant power spike there for Scream with that item completed. Heroine looking pretty scary as well, but the Jotun's Brawlers, so eUnited finally, I feel like, in a good position here in this set. And now the conversation can shift from, can eUnited develop a real lead, to, can eUnited turn this real lead into a position where it looks like they've got a chance to close the game out in the late game. Not even necessarily just outright win, but see them take this lead into an actual siege type situation, or put themselves in a position where they can win.
It was weird last week because we watched them, and you know, they had some real fun stats. Like they got 10 Furies throughout last week. That's interesting to always have happen for you. But they played through 6 games, and you know, they lost to Obey, they lose to Renegades. You typically don't expect that kind of team to then come in and well, have this performance against Space Station. Right now, this is looking solid for them. But it is still, you know, that transition. If it is a 2-0 for SSG, it's still well fought for United. They have to do something with this fight.
Fury is still standing. Instead, Scream goes to the back line looking for Vote. He has to disengage as Nika gets the early kill into Variety. Cherio is inside the ultimate, and that is giving him a little bit more time to live, as it looks like we've got another moment to try and get us back into the action.
And the way things are going right there, you know, I say this is a big fight for United, one that they have to control and win. And the first thing that happens is Variety dies right after that, right? And it's one of those moments where it's a well-fought engagement, but you lose one of your bigger moments. Cherio is still in that position where maybe he does die in just a second, right? Maybe things do kind of pivot around for United. But the fact that you lose your solo laner, who's on one of the better gods that we've seen, at least in this meta, in this phase right now, and he's not going to be there, I think you're potentially giving up some control of the map. Primal Fury still untaken as of yet. Fire Giant available way, way on the other side. There's a lot of things in my mind for eUnited to be worried about here. And I think that this is going to be one of them. If this fight doesn't go their way, it could be the turning point for the game.
Certainly could be. Certainly could. Yeah, well, hey, we're going to take a brief moment to get everything right. We'll throw to a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We are hopping right back into the action, everybody. Thank you very much for bearing with us, and apologies for the issues, but we are right back into the action. United still forward. In a pretty good spot. Looks like they're posturing near the gold tree. More than that, as they have it started up. It's Primal, as I correct myself, is down below. Half HP. Rapper steps forward and has it zoned off. The objective's been dropped. Scream is heading into the backline. Vote is the target, but he makes his way back. Nika gets the kill on the Variety to start things off, as Dardez has used the ultimate to make it the backline as well. It's Nika that gets the double kill, taking care of both Snoopy and Variety. And just like that, SSG a bounce back. Heroine in some trouble now too, as Nika gets the triple kill, taking care of 3, basically on his own. But Guy does get the response kill. Dardez has fallen to make it 3 for 1.
Cherio and Vote are so low. Scream's deep in the background, but no mana for him. It looks like Guy might be the next one on the chopping block. What a beautiful whoop. No stun connected. But Raffer's tanky, and I don't think he cares. Cherio even trying to get his name on this one. A lot of lockdown, a lot of commitment, but they still get the kill Finch. And that's the kind of turnaround fight you need for Space Station, right? I mean, you're down several thousand gold going into that engagement. and now you're down 600 gold. It's something laughable that you come forward with. Primal available for you, but that doesn't seem like they feel confident in their ability to take it without a eUnited getting into the engagement. And you don't need it right now. You just want a huge fight. Now you can slowly turn your attention into, the objectives that come thereafter. Whether it's a Fury, whether it's a Towers, mid lane, tier 1, missing for eUnited. This is how SSG kind of just inch their way back into the game and find themselves that control.
And this is, I think, why we had a little bit of apprehension. I mean, if you're eUnited, certainly that is just one bad fight, right? They're definitely still in a good spot here in this game. They still have a great draft. They can definitely still get a lot of good things done. But I don't know, it kind of felt like that was looming over the game for some reason to me. Like there was always just this chance that a big 4-for-1 fight might come through for SSG, and eUnited didn't even get the objective. Raffer is able to narrowly avoid getting into some trouble there, as a lot of eUnited members caught him at that choke point. But it looks like eUnited are not done with this Fury. Perhaps a second try at this is what they need, but look at Cheerio. He is way on the back end of this fight. Not going to come back through, though, just going to come through the middle lane where the tier 1 tower used to be instead.
It's all about finding that pick right now. I think eUnited, you lose one fight like that, you start to feel your grip slip, right? I mean, it comes down to the fact that, yes, you just lost a few thousand gold and what seemed like a blink of an eye in terms of a lead. But it also comes down to the fact that Variety died super early on. Cheerio has hit that power spike, now has a hasten, now has the Odysseus' bow as well for attack speed, and it's also going to give him a little bit of extra damage on top of that. The sprinkling that was Cheerio in those early game fights is now just going to be a fist that finds its way into the backline. If you can't deal with him early, then I expect to see him start running away with a lot of these fights. It was, 0-4 or 0-3 to 1-4 to now 2-4. It's a positive trend for him. Still negative as of right now, but could end up happy towards the end of this game.
Primal Fury down low. Scream takes to the sky. Spacestation get the objective. Snoopy's in some trouble, but avoids getting executed. And Scream in the backline is able to take care of Dardes. Somehow eUnited, despite losing the objective, have kept this fight from being as bad as it could have been. And Cheerio in the backline looking for the double. Cannot lock down Snoopy. Instead gets this man stunned. Dies to the tower as well. So couldn't find a way to get the reset there. Variety might even escape too, but Nika has made his way to Snoopy. That ultimate from Vote should be enough to secure this next kill for them as well, as Vote takes care of Variety. Ends up being a 3-for-2 plus the objective in favor of SSG.
Nika using that newly found blink for himself to make sure he gets another kill. And Finch, it just feels like a solo laner's day. I mean, we didn't get to see Nika maybe have the impact last game, although he was definitely a huge impact for SSG, and now he's 6-1-2. But prior to this, Scary D was having a great set when he was playing with the Knights. It just feels like being over there, somebody's got to shine. And Nika's always been a beacon of hope and light for Spacestation Gaming in a lot of these games recently. And right now, if Dardes is 0-4, if Cheerio goes and trades 1-for-1 in terms of his life, you got to have someone who's able to pick up some of the slack afterward. And right now, it seems to be Nika and Vote who are doing that. It's a great balancing point for SSG. Granted, they would love it if Dardes or Cheerio didn't have to die for those trades to come in their favor. But the fact that they're keeping up and turning it into a Fire Giant, into a Pyromancer, it's showcasing how well balanced they are, I think, in terms of team call right now. That is making it difficult for eUnited to withstand them 20 minutes after the game has started.
United now in a pretty tough spot. Scream, though, taking the opportunity to perhaps gather some information, see if maybe there's anyone in the jungle all on their own. He could capitalize on it. Unfortunately, no one was there, so the ultimate maybe looks a little worse than it was, but I like the idea of seeing if maybe he could find a nice pick, especially expecting for that red buff to be up next and someone might have come on their own. So Spacestation now in a great spot, up about 4,000 or so gold, but most importantly with the Fire Giant around their waist, 3 tier 2 towers to go grab as well at this point, and that could be what really accelerates this lead out of control. If SSG are able to find quite a few towers without too much response, as Scream gets pushed out, Nika and Raffer pushed up, now we're able to do that. It looks like the tier 2 tower in the left lane is going to be their initial target. They've got Vote here for that Hunter damage, and it looks like eUnited are not going to step out and try to defend the tier 2.
This is kind of spiraling out of control. Last game, we were at 28 minutes, and I'm sitting there talking about how these Tier 2 towers for eUnited are maybe going to help slow down SSG, and then they just ran it down the right lane and took the Titan anyway. Now, you only have the one Tier 2 left after all that, and still 2 minutes of Fire Giant time up for SSG. They don't seem to be pushing for a Phoenix just yet. They're getting all of their waves as far forward as they can. Left is starting to clash towards that Tier 2 area. Right is looking to get pushed down. Mid is pushed forward as well. But you can feel that SSG, they're confident, but not overconfident. And I love that that's the way they're feeling right now. Cherio just now finishing another attack speed item is going to just decimate anybody if he can get into the back line. But the trades still haven't been going his way, and now that he has some penetration online in this, he's going to kill off tanks because he can burst through health. He's going to kill off tanks even better because he has that penetration. Everything that Cherio is doing seems like he just wants to get aggressive and want to kill variety. He wants to kill Snoopy. And they're two great targets to get rid of early on. It makes it much less safe for Heroin, for Guy J, although it does bring into question who's dealing with Scream right now when he dives into the backline.
Scream had an excellent early game here, but we've now seen, what, 2 fights in a row where that value wasn't quite enough. I mean, the problem I'm thinking here is that eUnited have not been able to pose significant enough threats to Space Station Gaming in a multitude of ways. Even though Scream is representing that backline dive, Cherio is doing too much work in the back, Nika is cleaning up triple kills all on his own. It's just they're not quite able to match everything that SSG are doing. And I was going to say, I mean, if SSG sieged those towers and then went for a Phoenix before spending, that it was just a 4,000 gold. But they made sure they went back, spent the lead. This is a true advantage they come into this fight with. Variety is the one that's low first. Makes it to the ultimate. Now Cherio trying to commit, and Nika gets the execute. The plan absolutely works, but there's Scream. Does get the kill into Cherio in response. Fatal strike from Nika means it is not a 2-man knock. But Scream feels like he can win the battle. Gets the stun with the Acorn Blast and is trying to use the autos, but the dart does not land. And now Scream is on the wrong side of this battle. SSG can try and lock him down, but safely able to get out of their range.
And honestly, that's one of those, normally I call killing off Cthulhu worthwhile, even if you trade one person for it, because it just strips away so much team fight from eUnited. But you lose your late game Kali, and that never feels good. She doesn't even get credit for the kill. 3 and 6 now for Cherio. I think Mika is doing a great job of pulling things back into his favor and into the team's favor for SSG. But there's a lot of trades happening for SSG that it's starting to maybe make me rethink some of their late game team fight. I think that's the only split you can try to approach that. But 7-1 and 4 seems great for Scream, and he's showcasing what we had talked about last game, what they talked about on the desk, and that's the late game potential for this Ratatosker. And it seems to not only be there, but maybe even flourishing right now for Scream.
Scream really was able to make a big play for them in mid. Unable to save the left side Phoenix, though. Space Station were able to grab that, so I suppose enough attention drawn over towards Nika and Cherio for that fight to go in their favor. Fire Giant just wore off for them about a minute ago, so now they're going to be here for the next one when it spawns. In core, do you like this? It looks like eUnited want to be out to fight this, or should they maybe just be back at base? Do you like them trying to fight over this Fire Giant?
I like them trying to fight, but they've got to factor in those fire minions into their equation. I mean, that looks like, what, 2 waves that are running into the Titan right now, uncontested, and they're all in combat. No, 2 backs are able to make it off, but now you have 3 people that are fighting SSG on their own.
They got stuck in the middle, Score, and that is exactly what can happen. Snoopy ends up getting punished. I think they're fortunate it wasn't worse. Only losing Snoopy there is not the end of the world, and Cherio takes quite a bit of damage in return as well. So eUnited don't just give up, you know, a kill onto Snoopy for free. They get back in time with Guy J and Scream to push back that Fire Minion wave, and they only lost 1. But I think they might have to give up this Fire Giant, especially with that Frenzy popped and Nika on the zone. That is another late game Fire Giant for Space Station.
And I'm looking specifically towards Cherio right now, who, again, you had highlighted, took a ton of damage in that, but he's back to full health. They have the sustain they need. And he still has his ult, so does everybody save for Raffer on the side of SSG, and Raffers is going to come back in no time. This Phoenix, it's going to be in danger. Variety has to be careful because that's the target.
Cherio has made his way to the back line, now used the destruction, but he's stuck in between 4
Jeez.
and really doesn't get a whole lot of value out of that presence back there. Does get the Valkyries to stretching out, forces basically the entirety of eUnited to retreat, so hey, I guess that did work, right? The right side Phoenix is entirely open. Even though Cheerio didn't get a kill, he opened up the base. Vote takes care of Scream, and even though he's low HP, is able to use the Bifrost to reposition. Now Nika's battling with Snoopy, gets the execute, and they even get the kill elsewhere, as Heroine, Scream, and Snoopy all gonna have to check things out through the grayscale. Even with 2 Phoenixes down, though, Space Station still have to play this safely. They really can't look for an end from this spot.
I mean, they've got Vote, Nika, and Raffer. I feel like them as a trio could find a lot, but GuyJ, it's one of those things that's just so hard to factor into your equation. You're trying to fight Cthulhu Freya. I don't think anybody wants to run into that. So maybe pressure out this mid lane. They still have 2 minutes of Fire Giant for these guys, so a lot, at least on the front for Raffer and Nika in terms of sustain, and for Vote to be able to stay in this penetration. Whether it's left Phoenix or mid Phoenix, I think they're going to be happy being able to get one more structure.
Oh, Variety has to do this. This left side Phoenix is going to be so vulnerable. That's why he's getting aggressive, keeping Vote away. Said there's no chance they can step up and get in the damage. Maybe a little bit early, even if they had forced their way past. The left side Phoenix hadn't spawned just yet. But if it were closer, I think Variety made exactly the right play. He has to go forward and become such a threat that SSG have to retreat instead of potentially forcing their way onto the Phoenix and burning it down quickly.
Well, they managed to save it, as you had highlighted, but it's that question of whether or not it matters. Like Cheerio, so this is the weird thing. Cheerio is giving his life. It feels like the way SSG are playing this are jump in, burn down Cthulhu, kill Variety, whether it means Cheerio dying or not, and then see what they can pick up. And luckily for them, they are picking up kills afterward. But I'm wondering if there's maybe a better way to try and crack that shell that is eUnited. But I think you highlighted it perfectly in the call, where it's just he's zoning out all 5 of them, and it's Cheerio by himself. You can't really ask for more. Now there's a weakened Phoenix. They still have Fire Giant for a little over a minute, and it's on Vote. Cheerio doesn't necessarily need it with the pin he has. They should be able to jump in, take this Phoenix down, no problem. And eUnited are all on the right-hand side. They're going to back, and it looks like they'll be here, but it might be too late for the defense.
It's going to be very, very close. Nika and Cheerio are already there, so I think the best they can hope is for some return kills on the back. No, they get there in time. They defended completely, but Scream goes in and get deleted. I know he's got the Sledge and the Blood Forge, but it was not enough. Dardes proves to do too much damage at this point. Variety, though, goes up into the ultimate. Nika has been plucked back to the Phoenix aggro, but Variety is getting chunked. Nika is divine. GuyJ may have gotten Cheerio. GuyJ may have gotten a double, takes care of Dardes as well, but the left side Phoenix does eventually end up coming down. Man, eUnited are giving them hell, but it's just not enough at this point, Thor. They're not able to stop them.
And the damage that's left for eUnited here, Heroine and GuyJ should be able to fight a lot, but Nika does not seem to care. I mean, he took out Heroine earlier, although it wasn't enough to lock him down. It just comes down to Vote. I think Vote, with this build, it's great in a team fight, but I don't know if he has enough to personally see GuyJ down and take him out.
You were wondering, is the ability-based build going to come through? And we just saw some big damage onto a tanky target as Snoopy has to take the L. Guy goes up into the air, is able to get the better of Vote. Now, maybe even able to get the 1v1 here up against Raffer. Heroine, you're welcome, because that was all Guy. And we're starting to see the strength here in the late game of this Freya pick. I know maybe she didn't get to quite take over the game the way she would have liked to, but in these defenses, Guy has been a real thorn in their side.
I just have to figure out where you can fight back. I think GuyJ right there, 8-2 and 5. The Freya's getting away with murder in a lot of these. There's an overcommitment that admittedly pays off a lot of the time. Cheerio and Nika are dumping everything they can to kill off Variety. Scream goes too deep there. It's just the fact that there's this late game Freya. The damage that you're going to have out of Heroine is too much, it feels like, for SSG to handle. And I love this Kali, and I love Cheerio playing, but it's 4-8 right now. It's maybe not hitting all the marks I want it to.
No.
Ideally, you can get back in there, shred Variety, and get out. And I understand the call to sacrifice yourself for that play, but it's definitely been giving eUnited a lot more openings than they would have had otherwise. And Freya's going to be able to finalize one big item right here. It's looking like the final ring for the build. Demonic Grip coming through. It's just so difficult. eUnited actually find themselves in a position they can get aggressive thanks to that Oni Fury. The Fire Minions on left aren't going to be anywhere near as potent as they were the last fight, which caused eUnited to split and diverge, forcing a 3v5.
I do still worry maybe this is a little too ambitious for eUnited, but I mean, if they don't try to take a stand at some point, this game is just going to slowly but surely be taken entirely out of their grasp. Scream gets aggressive, forces the ultimate from Dardes. Defensively, that is a huge win for eUnited. Dardes is able to make it out of there, though, still healthy and alive for now, but Snoopy is on the way, not able to close the gap, and now he's low. Nika almost able to get the kill, but hey, eUnited stepped out, sent Space Station running for the most part, and were able to hold their own.
As long as they stay alive, I think that's a good news for both teams at this point, but specifically for Snoopy staying alive in all these engagements, I think is going to be for them moving forward. They get the Pyromancer, and we're talking about them getting aggressive. They're not just getting aggressive, they're taking objectives now at this point, turning it around from what felt like could have just been a slow, painful death for them laying around in their base waiting for it to end for SSG. And now, instead, being able to make plays. Still 3v5 trying to go in on this Fire Giant. We'll have to see if they can do it, but Variety's teleported in. This is a good fight.
They definitely want to defend this. Nika walks back through, but he takes so much damage from the Fire Giant. Guy gets the credit for it. Raptor is low as well. This could be the fight that eUnited needed. They're going to continue to go aggressive. Raptor drops the River's Rebuke. That is enough to stop the chase, but it's eUnited with the enhanced Fire Giant in the late game. They went from 2 Phoenixes down on the side lanes to stepping out, defending on the FG, and suddenly they've got it on all 5 members.
They're going to be able to defend this Phoenix no problem. That's a huge dip in terms of gold difference. Still favoring SSG right now for 6,000, but we're starting to enter that point where, you know, it's going to be the difference of those last final items, maybe a little bit still in favor of SSG. But they're not going to be able to translate it into as much. 9-2-5 is GuyJ. It almost feels like Scream carried the team through that early game, and now GuyJ refuses to let them lose as they transition into this late game portion. And it's turned into 1 tower. Looks like it should be 2 towers for him. This Fire Giant's going to make a huge difference for eUnited.
This has been huge for him. eUnited not going to fall down quietly. And remember, they started this game out in the lead with a substantial lead, around 3,000 to 4,000 still before the 20-minute mark, back when it meant the most. But Space Station battled back. They wrangled back the lead, and they've been the ones sieging for the last 10, 15 minutes. But eUnited, after a couple of defenses, come back out around FG and fight them evenly. eUnited are going to grab the tier 2 in mid, the tier 2 in left, though those Phoenixes are exposed. There's a win condition there for eUnited. If they're able to win a fight, they can start pushing down those Phoenixes and go for the end. But still, it feels like they've got a lot to do if they're going to get the win here over SSG.
The vision from Vote is going to be crucial here, at least in terms of planning. But I'm still worried about GuyJ. See, normally what we talk about specifically with Freya is maybe you've got a warrior support and you know, still a mage in mid, so your ability to burn down these structures isn't that great. And that's still true for GuyJ. But it's not true for Heroin, who's on this Wooler. It's going to be great. Now Scream's up in the air. They're going to be able to turn something out of this.
And they took care of Dardes right away. Deletes him before he can ever get the ultimate off. That is huge for eUnited. But Cheerio is able to take care of Guy early on in the fight. Herwin running away, but Cheerio sticking to him like glue. But Herwin gets the kill onto Cheerio first. He's still standing. How does he manage to pull that one off? That is huge. Is Space Station still going to try and keep surging out? They know that eUnited are low, but they held on to their base. But look at Scream. He's elsewhere trying to take the middle Phoenix all on his own, and he's chunking it. I don't know if SSG are going to make it in time to stop him.
Not going to be able to save the Phoenix. Might be able to make him pay for it, though. The beats are going to be burned, and they're fighting on 2 fronts. Finch, this never works out well. They don't know where to go, and now Nika's in danger.
This is just eUnited spreading the map out well here in the late game. Scream is able to live. The mid Phoenix is down. Boat gets the kill onto Herwind and still alive thanks to the Aegis usage, but Variety gets the kill on the backside. Nika takes care of Scream, so it's a 2-on-2. Snoopy and Variety are going to have to leave without the damage dealers, but look at this turnaround in the game. Somehow eUnited made a way down to break open the middle Phoenix, to break open the base of Space Station game, and either one of these teams now have an equal chance to get the win.
It's so bizarre to see them, and still as aggressive as they are. I mean, Minions here for eUnited, at least to get some pressure down. And again, I'm not thinking of Sobek as a tower pusher, but he should be able to get this one, which means there shouldn't be anything left on the map afterward. There's only 25 seconds left on that Fire Giant, so Space Station at least managed to thwart that much. But the question is whether or not they can hold on to it, around this next Fire Giant. It's a huge fight to try and change things around. You've got a 10-2 and 8 solo laner on you, so that's not where you need to look for things to start looking up. It's unfortunately just been, maybe Dardez not able to get into the fights as well. Cherio, or maybe even more so, Hurwind on the other side, being able to turn things around when it looks successful for someone like Cherio. It's all these little life bars that eUnited are getting away with that are helping them throughout all of this. But Cherio was able to find the kill onto Gaijay, and I honestly think that might be your more consistent performer than anything. If you're going to die, if you're going to go into the back and sack yourself, make it be for Gaijay at this point. 9-3 and 7. Yes, Cthulhu is a nuisance, and he's probably going to be able to stop you from winning the game, but Gaijay will win eUnited the game. If you kill him, it at least puts you at a stalemate.
Well, both teams are going to be out for the Fire Giant dance this time, Gore. 20 seconds until it drops down from the sky and is contestable again. 3 blinks for SSG. Didn't seem like such a big deal earlier, but now when Dardez gets bullied so easily, doesn't have a way to get to safety, you wonder if he's missing having one more extra relic. Snoopy goes aggressive with the charge. Prey doesn't find anything and doesn't take any damage in return either. Vote and Dardez really were in range, so really it ends up being a lower risk. It's eUnited that start up the Fire Giant first. Variety has his ultimate, but Snoopy doesn't have his. But SSG aren't going to make it in time. They burned it so quickly. eUnited have the objective. Now Scream takes to the sky. He's got the ultimate to deter any kind of chase in from SSG. He rejoins the team, and wow, eUnited have him zoned out completely.
I mean, not only a good zone, but you get the Fire Giant. Sure, you lose the Pyromancer, but who cares at this point? That Fire Giant is going to be enough. Weakened mid-Phoenix, although it hasn't even respawned yet, so maybe just an avenue for victory there for eUnited. And they've taken the gold lead back in their favor as well. 40 minutes in. And they are actually, I think, more in this game than they were when they were in the lead for the early game. Now it feels comfortable and confident coming down from them. They're making good plays. Gaijay is doing ridiculous amounts of damage alongside Scream and Hurwind. And Variety and Snoopy are setting up kills, or at least distracting SSG enough that the backline is having no issues.
Well, it'll be a left side Phoenix siege for eUnited. Have the waves pushed up. There is a wave pushed up in mid as well, where the mid Phoenix is just about to respawn, so very much worth keeping your eye on how SSG look to defend the mid and the left side Phoenix all at once. And I mean, just didn't think we'd be talking about this, where they were storming the gates of eUnited's base. It just didn't feel like it as they start to move forward. eUnited now have Variety transform, are going to start this fight off first. Snoopy is low over to the right, as is Variety, and Scream in the ultimate is keeping SSG from pushing forward. Snoopy able to come over, make sure the middle Phoenix goes down. SSG go with an all-in defense on left, and it cost them their middle Phoenix.
Now, they already were having to defend that, so maybe it's not the end of the world for SSG, but it's definitely not comfortable. Now you have to worry about those fire minions for even longer. A few more minutes of pressure for free from eUnited. Look at this, French. I mean, they're just setting up an ambush. Somebody is going to make a mistake here, and it seems like it might be Nika who's going to get burned down.
But they take care of Guy early on. Snoopy is in some trouble as well. Now they're running. Now they don't want to spring the trap at all anymore as SSG start to run them down. They're trying to keep the chase. Boat is right there on Snoopy, but Scream comes around the corner and is able to find a good stun. And look at Variety. Is he going to look to try and end the game while the rest of SSG are chasing? You're right, Hurwind is coming as well. So now SSG are looking for some backs. Boat is here to help defend. This might have been the only play that saves them from losing the game because it brings all of SSG back to their own Titan. But Variety's in some trouble now. He's getting locked down. Good stun from Hurwind keeps him off. But Cherio and Raffer are coming topside. They should be able to collapse on him and find some picks.
That should be one kill, but I don't know. Hurwind's been turning it around a lot. That is so close for Cherio, but still able to eke it out. That might be the kill that gets him a victory.
Might be 18 seconds before Guy is back up, and that might be the most important time, or a full minute before we see Tyler. So don't even worry about Whirlwind. But can they force down the middle Phoenix? Remember, they've never gotten this one yet. Variety has the ultimate. I don't know how easy it'll be for them to get this end. They're making the call to go right instead. That's where an exposed Phoenix is, and the closest minion wave. They send Nika over there first to clear the wave that was there. Scream is up in the sky, and he should be able to notice a low HP Cheerio in the back, but his ultimate is to deter the aggression. He lands back with the team, and Guy has rejoined them as well. I don't know if this is as free for SSG as we thought it might have been.
And now with Variety huge like this, he's going to have to do something to deter it, and that honestly is all he needs. Cheerio with no ult, he can't get aggressive, he can't get in there, even though Guy J's one hit from dead.
That's the frenzy pop as well. Cheerio does get plucked back towards the squad, and Variety gets the kill. So Space Station maybe take a... I mean, they get here, they try to go for the push, it does not work, and now they have to fall back. What an excellent defense here from eUnited to keep them in this game. And unfortunate if you're an SSG fan, that they could not find a way to at least put some damage into that right side Phoenix. I mean, basically getting completely blocked, stuffed there on the right side Phoenix, and now eUnited are considering pushing again.
And there's only a minute left till that Fire Giant comes up. You had mentioned to not even worry about Whirlwind, but he's back and in action overall. That minute-long timer seemed to disappear. And now SSG are patiently waiting for Cheerio to try and get back into this. There's an Oni Fury on that side of the map as well. If eUnited can pick that up, I don't know, SSG are already having some trouble defending their Titan. That's going to give them a lot of pressure. Even without Fire Giant, it looks like we might see a grouping from eUnited to try and take this left-hand Phoenix.
That looks to be the call. Snoopy is way at the back of the fight, but keep your eye on Scream. He's the one in the sky. Left side Phoenix is low as well, and eUnited able to clean it way more cleanly than what we saw from SSG just a moment ago. eUnited may have looked like they were going to shrink away and fall, but it's eUnited that have all the Phoenixes down on SSG's side. They have to fall back for now. You mentioned they don't have the Fire Giant, but they're in such a great spot now in this late game. They'll even have Oni minion waves moving up as well. This is completely shifted. I think eUnited are favored from this spot.
I mean, they're ahead in literally all aspects they need. They've got 2 waves of fire minions. Now, Oni fire minions that are going to be coming down through mid and left. It comes down to maybe this Fire Giant and the fight surrounding it. But with Guy J alive, there's a lot of pressure on unfortunately, it's on Cheerio. Right? I feel like Vote, especially with this build, he does a lot of damage, but he's not going to be the guy who gets into a 1v1 and eliminates Guy J. It's all onto Cheerio to try and get back there and deal with him. But what a beautiful ult from Raffer.
Snoopy low, though, as is Guy J in the back. But look at the damage onto Dardes. That was all Guy from the top, and Scream completing the kill. But Cheerio gets back there to the Ratatosker. That makes it 1-for-1. Keep in mind, all these minions moving down the waves over there in left and in mid as well. This is not free for SSG. They have to make sure they win this clean and keep pushing, or they might lose to minions. Cheerio makes his way in, goes right to the Destruction Ultimate, and cuts down Snoopy. That was the target. He gets the reset. Cheerio gets the double, is able to take care of Variety as well, but Guy punishes him the second that the ultimate is over. But now there's minions coming down the left side wave, moving onto the Titan. Space Station's middle Phoenix has fallen as well. I know they won the fight, but the minions might win the game.
I mean, at this point, with Nika gone, Raffer and Vote forced to turn tail, but they can't do anything. Those minions are empowered right now, Finch, and there's nothing there to stop them.
I don't even think Vote can stop it. He's getting the back channeled now. Something happened where it did not completely go through, but it's Winions that get the game for eUnited. About 47 minutes on the clock, and you might have thought having our winless team up against Space Station would be a one-sided blowout, but eUnited are here to prove you wrong.
I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Winions, the whole fight back from eUnited, I mean, there's just a certain point where Guy J decided, no, we are not going to lose. And that's the moment it all started to turn around. That Freya made such a huge impact just in one moment of this game where Cheerio maybe goes a little too deep and Guy J can turn it around. And from that moment forward, eUnited just kind of nudged SSG out of the driver's seat, took control back of the game. Objectives start going their way. Everything starts going their way. And it's just so beautifully played from them.
It's a huge comeback win for eUnited, and a lot of it comes down, I think, to their ability to defend on the Phoenixes. But remember that first time they stepped back outside of their base, they came out to contest that Fire Giant, and I was like, how can they be thinking about coming out of the base? But I think they clearly had the awareness they were ahead and had the ability to take that fight.
And it's moments like that where you have to make that decision, right? If they stay in their base, if they stay defensive, this game ends 15 minutes ago and it's SSG. It's a 2-0. We're talking about eUnited still looking for a win. Now, they've showcased they can do it, and they can take down a team that's in the top 4. That's ridiculous to see.
Well, now I wouldn't have believed I thought it, but eUnited with a chance to win the set here over SSG. We'll have that game ready for you in just a moment. I'll get it back to the desk, though, and have them tell us what they're thinking.
Yeah, take a breather, guys. You've had some long ones today. 78-minute game for Gore and Finch in the SCC this morning. Now a 47-minuter between SSG and eUnited. Don't forget, this eUnited team aggro is winless. Have not won a set yet. But of the 6 sets they've played going into today, half of them went 3 games. One of them against Ghosts. So this is a team we've seen in the past take these top-tier teams to at least 3 games. And now with this, 4 out of 7 of their played sets will have gone to 3 games. It's whether or not this one converts into a win for eUnited is the big question. I think GuyJ stands out to me here. Scream as
Absolutely.
well. Finally, eUnited capitalize on what worked in Game 1. Little help from the minions, get them the win here in Game 2.
Hey, that's what MOBA's all about, right? It's the macro play and Oni waves and fire minions and things like that. You really have to juggle accordingly, and Spacestation just miscalculate on the push that they can try and end the game with how well that fight is going for them and ultimately lose to those minions. But eUnited just had a really, really good start to this game. And then don't forget, we had a little technical mishap or whatever, but right after that, SSG starts winning because Nika gets a triple kill, SSG get gold. It's looking like it's going to go Space Station's way, and then eUnited are able to defend when they had to defend their Titan once. They had 2 Phoenixes down. This was a gritty win for eUnited, and even though it doesn't feel as good as killing the Titan yourself, this is a hard-earned victory for eUnited for sure, and I think that's a great point you bring up, the fact that now 4 of their 7 sets have gone to those 3 games, the full distance in these best of 3s. I think that's something that gets lost in looking at their record.
Yeah, you know, one thing goes one way, one thing goes the other. You look at specifically at the Renegade set last week. I mean, hard to wrap your mind
Big replay
around what goes there. Yeah, the most exciting one of the day so far is just a wave of minions taking down the Titan on their own. That's a good glimpse, though. I mean, that was not a lot of elapsed time there to take down that Titan. You're out of base for too long. You let enough of those minions pour in, empowered, of course. Your Titan's crumbling. That's what happens here for SSG. So now, I don't know if it's really all that much back to the drawing board aggro. In picks and bans in Game 1, Game 2, and now maybe picks and bans for Game 3, they've all looked very similar. eUnited have prioritized a lot of the same things. SSG have, changed one piece around. Both of these teams have felt okay with the way these games have gone, seemingly. Wonder if we see more of that here for Game 3.
I'm surprised that SSG, the loser gets to choose which side they want to go to in picks and bans, and I am surprised that SSG is going to continue to be in that first pick. Look, the emoji for Raffer is really, really good, but if you're not going to change the bans and you're going to give up Freya Cthulhu again, it's going to be pretty difficult for you. I would expect some sort of switch up in the banning phase for SSG, though. So far, they've stayed true to form. They have been third banning Yanis away from Heroind every single game. That's the one that I would expect to change here. I would expect a Cthulhu ban from SSG. And eUnited looks like they're expecting some sort of switch up as well. They get in that target ban now so that they can adjust to whatever SSG is going to ban. I think that's very smart.
Right, the Hera ban had been third up to this point. So different here from eUnited. No more Yanis. Banned out by SSG. It will be the Freya this time. So how about that? Freya, of course, very strong, but GuyJ has shown twice now in this set. 1 win, 1 loss. He, despite being a newcomer to the SPL this phase, you can't give him these power picks. He'll make you pay. So I think smart from SSG there. eUnited, they're going to change up their draft strategy a little bit. Take that Hera away, much the same, 1 ban sooner. But then take away the Emoja instead of the Amaterasu that now gets let through over for SSG. So a little bit of that solo lane pressure to punch back, especially if eUnited look for that Cthulhu again.
So now eUnited has some options. They can go Cthulhu Nem, they can go Cthulhu Hebo if they want to try and dissuade SSG from picking that themselves. Cupid has not been picked or banned a whole lot. He might have gotten banned in the second phase of Game 1 they banned a couple hunters there. It was Rom and maybe Jing, but couldn't remember if he'd been really prioritized at all. So you could go just Nemesis right now if you're eUnited, but that leaves you very, very vulnerable to something like Hebo Cupid as a response. Jingwei is curious to me because Rom has been the pick for Guy J, but they seem to want to give him some safety. This is really just a let's wait and see what we see in the rest of the pick and ban phase, and then we can adjust from there. This is not necessarily eUnited saying they think Jingwei is one of the best gods in the whole game. It's just that it's such a vanilla pick that you can't really punish it no matter where they take it.
Right, of the last 6 games, and this is up to date, counting these 2 here in this set, it has been 3 Rom for Guy J, 2 Freya, and then 1 Jingwei. So absolutely in his wheelhouse, but you're right in that Rom has been the pick for Guy J here. So something a little bit different, not out of the ordinary, but a little bit different. Leaving it open, though, to vote, I think is maybe the bigger swing here. He is near lights out on this pick from what we've seen. Sobek as well sets that lane up wonderfully. You get some good early pressure there. Merlin to round out the first 3 here for eUnited. So similar strategy aggro, but some different picks here. Jingwei instead of Freya, and then Merlin there for eUnited out of the mid lane. How do you like their first 3?
I'm okay with it. I still think Nem in that 3rd pick slot would be my preferred selection, because then you can just insta-ban away the Hebo. You don't have to worry about Cupid too much, though Dardes has shown the capability of playing that in the mid lane. I think I'm going Kali and then Hebo bans if I want the Nemesis. eUnited clearly does not, so they're going to ban the Nem themselves and maybe just go straight back to Ratatosker. That's what they picked coming out of the second ban phase every single game of this set. Looks to me like they might just go right back to it with the way they banned.
That's right, Ratatosker still available. 50% win rate so far in this set, at least. A couple good games from Scream, but only really one in our previous game where eUnited able to capitalize on what was a good start for Scream there. Robin continuing to get banned, Nemesis, Kali both off the table, so Cherio will have to go over to something new for the first time here in this set. Now a Thor locked in. I think a strong pick here. You find some early pressure, and Thor can get games out of control quickly.
Just brings a lot of that same threat that Ratatosker does, just a little bit less early game, a little bit more consistent CC and CC to play around in the late game in the form of that wall. Erlong Shen, a guy that I've been very impressed with as of late, did not work for Lasber in the first set of today, but otherwise still has that 80% win rate despite the low pick rate. He has been very, very impressive. I like Cherio going to a comfort pick for himself. And the Morrigan for Dardes, immediately a bunch of good transformations jump off the page. Alma's one of the best in the whole game when you're transforming as the Morrigan in the mid to late game. You've got Thor as a great transformation. You've got Cthulhu as a great transformation. But how about this, Dave? This is right up your alley, man. And it's perfect here because you hear that Morrigan coming in and you know who he's going to be hunting the vast majority of the time. Your carries are going to tell you, hey, I've got no beads. I'm guessing that's where Dardes is going to go. Snoopy just plants right next to whatever carry he thinks Dardes is going to go on, and you just channel that Ohm. As soon as you start to hear those sound cues go off, it can really cause problems for the Morrigan. I love this Ganesh pick, and I think the way that Snoopy and Scream, these final 2 selections, play for eUnited is going to determine who wins the set.
This one hanging the balance. It sure does, going into Game 3. SSG versus eUnited. Can eUnited get their first win, and will SSG tie it up for first? We got to go down to game number 3 to find out.
Dave, I can't believe I'm hearing you say that. eUnited gonna be able to take care of SSG in game number 3, but it's realistic, man. They certainly got a shot at being able to do it here, Gord. Still, you and I, bring to the action. Still, Doug grinding through a hell of a day, by the way. But here in this final set with the Cthulhu, with this Thor for Scream, the Snoopy on this Ganesh, maybe they've got a chance here, Gord.
Honestly, it's gotten to the point, and I tend to get this way, you throw out the unbiased, throw it to the side, because if eUnited can take 1 game off of SSG, there's a world where they take 2 games off SSG, and honestly, I would root for that because of how upended the league would become here. If eUnited can do that, I mean, your last place team, no wins against anybody else, they have 1 more team to play tomorrow, and that's Radiance before they've played everybody. And you're telling me that they're going to be able to beat one of the top 4, one of the top 3 that we've seen? It would be insane, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I'm going to knock on wood now to make sure I don't jinx them, because SSG, Vote is on this ROM. That's going to be great for them. Dardez bringing out the Morrigan, Nika's on Amaterasu. That's a lot of death sentences, it sounds like, for eUnited.
Good body blocks from Rapper, too, forcing Snoopy to use the shell, or at least making him feel like it was necessary. It certainly seemed close. Seeing some of the power of this ROM that you just highlighted there for Vote, and you were talking about all the strengths SSG have. Dardez on this Morrigan feels like, to me, the beginning, the middle, and the end. I mean, it's a lot of power to give him in one pick, and Snoopy is in some trouble. One last shot later from the Astro Arrow. Rapper doesn't have any more cooldowns, and Guy kept Vote out of the fight. They were able to do just enough to keep Snoopy alive.
And not only keeping Snoopy alive, but putting Vote in danger. I mean, getting first blood against the support is great, but killing your opposing hunter would be a good turnaround and a good way for Guy to start this up. He's been on Freya the last 2 games, so he needs to showcase, a little bit else, a little extra. That's what I'm trying to get at here, as they look to lock down Nika.
Yeah, Scream making a bit of a surprise gank over to Solo, and it almost able to pan out there for him. Just not enough damage to kill that level 2 Nika, and that feels like one they should have been able to get. I'm not sure if they got all the hammer damage there from Scream when he first came in, but either way, that was very, very close, and they just barely couldn't kill Nika level 2 with just the word.
See, I don't know. Again, I feel timid. I'm excited because eUnited played so well at the end, but honestly, that just lights a fire under SSG. And every time I'm thinking, man, this is something like, this is a win condition for him. Cthulhu, Thor, the Merlin's going to look good. The Jingwei, if Gaijay can play half as well as he did last game, is going to hit just fine. And then I keep going back to that Morrigan on Dardez. And every time I highlight it, I think, what would be great in a game, Finch? 2 dazzling offenses. Or a Cthulhu for SSG that could come through. Yeah. Or if you really need it, your own Merlin to help burn down an objective. I just think it's going to be insane. Oh, also, I glanced over a Thor to be able to have some initiation. I don't know. There's so much good for Dardez to grab in this game. And so that maybe is going to make this pick for Snoopy even more important, to try and shut down and lock away Dardez, whether it's while he's in his ult or not. Just stopping that Morrigan from having such a phenomenal potential is maybe one of the biggest things you can do throughout all of this as Ganesh.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most important cooldown on the map, right? That Changeling ultimate for Dardez, because it's the only cooldown that's all the other cooldowns, right? Or potentially anything else. Looks like SSG, they're going to go for a buff invade successfully, stripping the red away, and being able to get away with it successfully. Neither Scream nor Whirlwind were there. Looks like they both had to take backs, and SSG capitalized on that window. And they're coming into this next game with a bit of a fire. I mean, you described it there for how SSG might feel a little bit gassed up after Nika survives the gank, but they're playing with some confidence.
It's that momentary, not even judgment call, but realistically, eUnited led both games 1 and game 2 for the first few minutes. If SSG can start this one off in the lead, it's going to be, the 35 minutes, 30 minutes into game 2 that we were just at, except eUnited won't have the items online, the potential for the turnaround. It'll all be a different pace of game. So if SSG can kind of continue on this route, 500 gold now, nothing to really write home about, but it grows and grows. If they can get to 2,000, that's when I start looking at them as solidified in the lead, and it becomes more difficult for eUnited to fight back.
Curious to see how SSG will be going about this early game. Because Vote, you think you want to get some items online before you start moving. Dardez probably was going to get some CPR, so the Changeling can happen more often, maybe even do more for the movement speed. There's a lot of options that I feel like Morgan really needs before she's really at her best. So exactly how aggressively are SSG going to play this? I mean, Cheerio and this Erlong Shen could certainly battle right from minute 1. I mean, now that he's level 5, he's feeling it. He's ready to go. He's got the ultimate available for him. He's got the pan, got the knockup, it's all there. But on the other side, United have this Thor that can control the pace just as well. I'm really curious how this early to mid game is going to flesh out.
Yeah, all eyes on Scream for me. I mean, Aggro highlighted Scream and Snoopy coming into the game, and I'm still looking at Scream because his Ratatosker last game was a huge reason they were able to control a good chunk of the early game. Even though they had that lapse throughout all of it, I think he could be a big factor here.
Well, talk about Cheerio getting involved early. Didn't think it would be like that. eUnited are on the board there first as the Dharmic Pillars locks him down inside the cage, and really not much anybody could do to get out of that situation. Despite that fact, nice work there from eUnited to get on the board first, and then they get the kill onto Scream, which has got to feel good.
Well, I guess it's time for that. It feels like weekly moment where I get to talk about how much I love Dharmic Pillars as an ability and how it's probably one of my favorites in the game. And as a support player, it's definitely one of my favorites in terms of what it gives you in capabilities, because it's prot shred, it's good damage. Oh, by the way, if you decide to leave it, it's going to make it easier to chase you down. Or you don't decide to leave it, and we've got you locked in a box. No matter what, it can change the pace of a fight. So Snoopy, this is maybe the biggest test for him, right? He played a Hercules in Game 1. He had a really good game there last time. But this is the one, you know, as a Ganesh, I think that showcases the full flexibility of a support. Because he's just so different from a Hercules and a Sobek in terms of what he's going to bring, that if Snoopy makes this one work, I think we can stop talking about him freshly switching this role and fully christen him as a full-fledged support.
And they need it, man. They need Snoopy to be able to step up in that way, because I just don't know if his play has been there consistently enough this phase. That has hurt this squad, but we know he's got the high-end potential, one of the best hunters we ever had in that role, so obviously the mechanical skill is there, and he's starting to come into his own a bit here in support. And Ganesh, I mean, I feel like this god's a bit underused right now. I mean, he's really strong. The silence is great up against these gods that need to want to get long channel abilities off, or when you know when they want to use them. The Dharmic Pillars is a great control tool as well that can help heal or initiate. It's such a flexible pick that I am surprised we haven't seen more of it, and hopefully Snoopy can show off some of what it can do.
I'm always excited for a good Ganesh. I'm always excited for good supports, but it is one of those moments that it's the full showcase of it. But you're going up against, again, Nika on this Amaterasu. You're going to have to deal with Raffer on the Sobek, doing a lot of the things you did well now against you. So I think Snoopy might have to be a little worried. But it is worth noting, I think, in that same vein of conversation, that there hasn't been a lot of Sobek support play that comes through. He's not normally picked up over there, especially as of late. So having Snoopy play that and now give it over to Raffer has been pretty big.
Looks like SSG got what they were looking for. Force variety into the ultimate. Take that one away from him. Does cost the blink and 2 ultimates from SSG, but perhaps he can capitalize in the future. Guy able to get a little bit aggressive over here in the long lane, Gore, and push a vote back. You don't normally get to see Jingwei get out ahead, looking to play aggressive, but that is one of her strengths. When she gets the lead, she has great chase down potential, great burst potential. She has some crits online, so certainly Guy J, I think, can make this work the same way he did with the Freya.
And super safe as well. You know, Freya, we highlighted, I think, in Game 1, a ton of reasons she is difficult to kill out. But really, when it comes down to it, Jingwei has a lot of the same. I mean, a good ult that can disengage beads in about 3 levels. It'll be Aegis as well. And then, of course, if you knock her up in any form or fashion, she's going to be able to dash out of there. And while there's not a ton of knockups for the people I'm looking at ganks for, specifically Cheerio, I think the fact that you can knock yourself up and dash out is also going to be beneficial for you. And so Guy J gets something that he's going to be safe on, can relax on. And so maybe he actually has the potential to get some pressure over there. I still am kind of waiting for Scream to find a nice large ult that just dunks down on somebody, maybe even vote to try and slow down this ROM. But as of right now, SSG aren't looking to be in too much danger.
No, not at all. I mean, they can certainly still feel comfortable about the way this game has gone, as there's a big grouping here in left and over near the blue. SSG fall back. Meanwhile, eUnited chase out Vote. They have had pressure over here all game long, and they're looking to capitalize now with some buff invades, perhaps even some kills if Vote gets a little bit too aggressive. They are able to steal away the farm, but now Cheerio is on the way. Raffer coming too. This could be trouble now for Guy, as well as for Snoopy. The ultimate comes out right away, and Snoopy the one locked down. There's the knockup. Shell is the response, but Snoopy not going to be able to live through all of this. Vote ends up getting the kill, but here comes eUnited. Herwin makes the way in. Scream has landed as well, and it is able to get the kill onto Cheerio. So they end up making it 1-for-1 support for jungle, and eUnited can't feel too bad about how that went.
And worthwhile every step of the way. I kept glancing. I was waiting for something to happen. I was actually surprised no airstrike coming down from GuyJ. I was wondering if that ult was going to be used, but, you know, hey, if you're going to see people on SSG come and gank this lane and you can get away with not using your ult as a disengage, well, it means you're still safe going into the next time they decide to get aggressive. And Scream being able to pull in now 2 kills for himself, I think is what we wanted to see out of that Thor. Something that, again, early on is going to be able to flourish and I think set up eUnited for success. And while that success isn't necessarily anything large in terms of a lead, it's at least finding kills and pressure where they need it.
Still a very close game that we have here right now. So United haven't really created that much distance between them and SSG. So SSG could still feel pretty comfortable with the pace of this one here so far. I think still the biggest thing to sort of keep your eye on is how is Dardes doing. He elects to get the Doom Orb, has the cooldown boots and the Mage's Blessing, so has that 20% CDR already, plus the extra movement speed. This is just about exactly how Morgan likes this build path to look. So right now, Dardes has got to be feeling comfortable as Snoopy does lock down Raffer, goes into the ultimate in response. Snoopy drops the Dharmic Pillars. Scream takes to the sky as well. The Anvil of Dawn channeling and sees Dardes in his sights. Dardes turned into the Amaterasu, doesn't land the dunk, but the wall cuts him off. The hammer damage is there, and Scream gets yet another kill.
They really needed that to go their way, and now Variety's come through, but Nika, the actual Amaterasu, is able to find a kill onto the mid laner. That might put a fork in the plans of eUnited.
Guy was getting aggressive, but turns around to find a Raffer behind him and is able to land the final shot, so Raffer falls as well. It's a 2-for-1 now in favor of eUnited. They got the support and the mid, but had to trade Herwin to make it happen. Scream is heading over towards the Fury, as is Guy. They're going to look to grab an objective on the back of this, so if it's a 2-for-1 plus the objective, this is certainly favorable for eUnited. Nika forcing his way in, does not have the ultimate, and if eUnited know that, they can try to stick the objective, but look how low Scream is, able to get out of there using the hammer. eUnited do secure the objective, but very low is Snoopy. Even if they end up having to trade out the support, it could be worth, but Cheerio is here to try and find some return kills.
Oh, the pin, not enough damage to kill off Scream, and that means he doesn't have it there for Snoopy. So 2 members of eUnited looking to get away from that, and with Variety still in the neighborhood, he's actually getting aggressive on them.
He is, and I don't want him to get too far out of control. It was already a good fight. You can lose the red buff for it, but you don't want to lose the Cthulhu. So that hurts a bit on the back of that to give that kill away, but still, gotta think SS, or rather eUnited, are feeling good about the fight.
I mean, you get yourselves a Fury, I think, and you go back before that, I think ultimately, what, a 2-for-2 that comes through? Raffer and Dardes dying, but Herwind and Variety on the other side. Maybe being a little more beneficial since it was Raffer instead of Variety that goes down in that trade. But shutting down Dardes is maybe more important to me. He transforms into the Amaterasu. I expect to see that several times this game. And if you can lock that down as Scream or as Herwind or anybody on the side of eUnited, then that's going to be a crucial team fight victory for you, right? I mean, that on its own, I think, is going to be enough to start shifting things in your favor. Then you can start focusing on everybody else. Cheerio becomes a threat. Nika, when he does come into the fight, much like he did that time, is even more of a threat because now you have the second Amaterasu you have to kill off. But it's all controlling the ebb and flow, and I think Dardes is not the winning factor, but one of the 3 winning factors, and if you get rid of him, it's easier to take down the other 2 pillars.
This game's still incredibly close, though, and I think United should be a little worried. Maybe this can help, though, as they do get the beads out from Cheerio with that Dharmic Pillars. But Dardes turned to the Ama. Cheerio finds the 2-man ultimate to taunt into, but Cheerio is low, gets the heal, though, for the Nine Church Blessing, and Guy able to shut him down to the backside of it with the airstrike. But way in the back, Scream is slow. Dardes able to get Herwin. Vote takes care of the Thor, and now Snoopy's stuck in a bad spot. Vote gets the double, and it's a 3-for-1 for SSG. Guy's still stuck, looking for the trades, but Nika is here, making 4-for-1 as SSG find the answer back.
You would think after watching last game, I wouldn't want to call things before they were done, just because of the way things went. And I think this is going to be a good kill back from Variety, but you lose 4 members and now you're putting yourself in danger, even if you can find another kill here. I mean, that'd be remarkable just on its own, but it feels almost like he's just waiting to die. That is going to be the case. So I'm going to say, where were you when SSG won 2-1? Because I feel like I was sitting right here at 14 minutes. I don't know how you come back from something like that.
No, that's pretty tough. Giving up the deicide just kind of over in the jungle, right? Just a skirmish happening, and you lose it that handily, and it's so tough, man. eUnited fought so closely with them back in Game 1, and then there in Game 2, they dragged it all the way out and got the win, and here in Game 3, they were so even and close throughout it, and then SSG just kind of starts stepping on the gas. Cheerio and Dardes, for me, were the big part of it, starting it off with their synergy, turning into the Ama, and finding the two-man taunt, and letting that set the fight up favorably. Cheerio, though, is in trouble in mid. Scream gets another answer back, much needed, in favor of eUnited, and SSG got to make sure they're being careful. Even when they're winning some fights, can't afford to just lose Cheerio on a whim in mid.
And I think that's actually going to be the key, right? Right now, SSG are winning the fights around the objectives, but my eyes are on this kind of guerrilla warfare style play from eUnited. Even right here, they might be able to find some good kills.
Did force the Pyromancer down. In comes the dunk from Dardes. He turned into the Thor. Herwin in the back has already had to use the Aegis. Gets some peel out from Variety, and Herwin gets the first kill, but Nika answers another one, and Herwin drops as well. Another 2-for-2 exchange where the jungle and mid were lost on both sides. The Pyromancer, though, still stands, as neither team was able to confirm.
Not doing too bad in retaliation. I mean, it's 2-for-1, so it's not exactly what you want as eUnited, but honestly, you're losing objectives, you're still down in gold. You come out of that one just slightly behind from where you were when you went into it. It's not the end of the world, but this is the problem. You know, the last couple of games, they've started with that early game lead. And I will admit, last game, they were able to hold off a defense. That was the thing that was the most impressive, was them making sure those Phoenixes stayed alive and that SSG couldn't break base. I just don't know if I have the same confidence in this draft from eUnited at doing that. I think Jingwei can hit pretty hard late game. Thor can as well. Same thing for the Merlin. But it just doesn't have the same presence as Gaijay's Freya was bringing. Although, I will admit, Gaijay's Freya didn't seem to have that presence last game when they started doing that. So maybe it's too early to count it out. I just think that giving SSG with this kind of composition an early game lead is incredibly difficult to come back from. And it's mainly because Dardes, look at him, the first fight we see him become a Matarasu. That last fight he becomes the Thor. It's so difficult to lock him down, and meanwhile, Vote's 4-0-4.
Vote's in a comfortable spot. Nika feeling pretty good as well. 3-0-3. These side lanes for SSG have done quite well. And even if the slash lines for the 3v3 don't look great, they have kept even in these matchups. But now SSG has the Primal Fury down to half. I believe Dardes in the back may have transformed as well. Yes, he turned to the Thor. He's dunking, looking for Scream off to the side, who did not have beads, but wasn't able to convert that into a kill. Might not have been able to get the objective, but eUnited could potentially push forward on the back of Dardes' ult being down.
Gonna look to get aggressive here. Gaijay's already half health. That's not a good start for eUnited, especially with the airstrike forced out.
Use it defensively to get away. Meanwhile, Nika trying to lock down Snoopy with the ultimate. That works, but gets some backup from Variety. Vote steps in, though, and is feeling himself with the 4-item deep ROM. Able to take care of Snoopy, not quite able to get to Variety, but luckily Cheerio's putting out plenty of damage. Nika cleans it up, and that makes it 2-for-0 in favor of SSG. The snipes are not quite enough to get the kill, but doesn't this kind of feel like SSG are wrestling control away from eUnited and starting to set the pace of this game?
I mean, you get taunts like that, just the play style that SSG are going for right now is different from games 1 and 2. It's a different pace than I think eUnited were expecting coming into this. And, I mean, it's a good set of plays from Spacestation, and being able to force out these defensive ults, making sure eUnited can't get aggressive. Unfortunately, I think this is something that's coming down. A lot of their team is good in team fights, but maybe has more passive play. I'm mainly looking at the Ganesh. I think he can be an initiator, but not to the level that we've seen Snoopy in the last couple of games. So he has to kind of sit back and wait for something to happen instead of maybe making ends meet, unless he has those Dharmic Pillars, in which case he could try to kick it off. But SSG are playing around that so far so well. They haven't really let that affect them since those first couple of kills eUnited picked up.
Yeah, now that SSG have the lead, they're kind of starting the fights on their own terms, huh? They started up that Gold Fury fight, and so it's a lot harder for Snoopy to find that same level of effectiveness, especially when every fight, Dardes is changing into something that gives him the initiation. It's really not even so much that Snoopy's struggling to initiate, it's that Dardes is starting these fights off. He's changing into the Thor or the Ama, and he's taking the fight to eUnited. This was the fear for me when this Morrigan got locked in towards the tail end of that draft, and he's kind of dictated the pace.
That's just the question of GuyJ. You know, last game I think it was GuyJ and Scream, and right now you're not seeing too much of either of them. Scream's 4-2 and 3. GuyJ's 2-1 and 2. They're not having bad slash lines, but it's not the same level. Granted, and again, I have to keep reminding myself just because I'm thinking late game. That didn't happen until we were 30 minutes in. The only issue is Finch, this doesn't look like 30 minutes in is going to be a big possibility for eUnited, at least not at this current pace. SSG are 6K up, almost 6K up, 5K up right now as they find that tier 1, then the final tier 1 there in left lane. They've got objectives going kind of in their favor. It's split 1-1 on the Fury, but Pyromancer is something that they can control. Fire Giant feels much more feasible for SSG right now than it does eUnited. United had to pick up one big play, and that will just even things out. And that's something that SSG have been able to do these last couple of games, not something United has necessarily been able to reel back from. So it's up to them, and again, I drift towards Scream and Snoopy to be the ones making that big playmaking difference for United to stay alive in this.
Fire Giant has been started. There's the block to bring one member back towards the FG. Variety has to dash back out of there. Is A-okay? Rapper continuing to push though, and the Fire Giant has been entirely dropped. Vote rolls in aggressively. Snoopy has to drop the ultimate at his feet. Gets the dunk in from Scream, but Snoopy is still low. Vote gets the kill with a snipe from the sky, but Dardez is low, and Variety cleans up the kill. Scream narrowly makes it back, but Vote over the wall is able to find the kill. Unstoppable at 7-0 and 5, and he's still feeling it, stepping forward. SSG have some low health bars though. They're probably thinking about backing up. Except for Cheerio, who's stepping forward, trying to make sure maybe he can stop Vote from, or Guy rather, from getting this speed.
I was going to say, he's a jungler and he sees a speed buff is available. He wants to take it more than anything else in the world right then. But I think since overcoming him, he does fall back and not risk his life for that one, especially because there's all this other jungle you can try to strip away. And Finch, everything's kind of coming to fruition. Early on, I had said I wouldn't mind seeing Scream try to shut down Vote just to slow down this ROM, and he never really made a rotation over to that duo lane, and now he's level 20, 7-0 and 5, a level lead over GuyJ. Item advantage definitely in his favor, and he is just an absolute menace. I mean, half the kills of what SSG have are on him, and he's 12 out of 14 effective kills.
Guy does not have the ultimate, so Cheerio and Nika clean that kill up pretty easily, though it does cost them the dazzling offensive. Oni Fury will be up right afterwards, and Spacestation are in position for that as well, so the lead will expand before it shrinks. United had to fall back and play defensively, but remember, Game 2, United have shown some defensive prowess. I just don't know if this comp is as geared to make that defense work. They still have the Cthulhu, which is certainly pretty strong for that defense. They've got Hurwin, whose damage is excellent on the defense as well, on this Merlin, so maybe United can stall out the same way they did in that second game.
Well, Cheerio definitely has a different perspective, though. The Kali, first off, took a little longer to get online because of some early game pressure from United, but also was kind of trading one for one almost all the time. Would go out, kill Variety with some help, but then would lose their life in the process. So Cheerio maybe not looking to make that level of play. So far, he's been looking for the carries, the taunts that you get as Erlang Shen with that ult. It's going to change the pace of this, and I don't know if you can kill him as easily and make it a 4v4 or 4v5 in favor of United as often. Now, they're going to have to do something about this Fire Giant.
United are here. They want to defend, but just not going to be able to make it there in time. SSG secure the objective, and United are purely on the defense. Vote takes to the sky, though, to try and fire out some shots. He is able to connect some of them as Guy ends up low right away. Does get the airstrike off, though, and is able to retreat, but Nika is right there waiting for him when he lands. Variety dies inside the ultimate, and Nika keeps going with the dazzling offensive. Can't lock down Scream, but does catch Snoopy. It's a 2-for-0 plus the FG for SSG. They take the tier 2 tower in right, and I don't see any reason why they would slow down. This Phoenix should be theirs as well.
I mean, yeah, you still have 40 seconds where it's a 3v5. This is definitely in your favor. They're kind of trepidatious about it. I want to see him go in. Dardez doesn't have his ult. Nobody on SSG does, so maybe that's causing a little bit of hesitation, but they're going to be able to get in. The Phoenix shouldn't last long.
That is it for the right side Phoenix. Vote rolling forward again, but not able to continually put out damage. So SSG are on the retreat, and now eUnited have a difficult task ahead of them. I mean, we said they had the defense in game 2, but it was not like this. Down 12,000 gold this early on in the game, plus there's still a couple tier 2 towers for Spacestation to go get later to make this even worse. This is a pretty good spot here for SSG at this point. Feeling like an answer back here to eUnited after that strong game 2.
I mean, I'll be honest, I honestly thought we were looking at almost a replay of game number 1 there. I saw that right-hand Phoenix going down. There's a 3v5. I thought SSG were going to try and push their luck once again, although the first time it felt a little risky. That time it felt even more so. So I like the fact that they fall back. It does keep eUnited alive in this, but it's one of those, I mean, kind of like teetering. We're watching a soap opera, and they're that character that's in a coma, and we're waiting to see if they're going to come back and wake up at the very end of the episode right now. They are not in this game the same way they have been in games 1 and 2 right now, and that is where things get difficult. I mean, game 1, it seemed like it ended way too fast. Game 2, they were able to retaliate, as we've highlighted a few times now, but game 3, it's just feeling like they don't have anything to slow down SSG, especially team fight-wise. I think Nika and Dardes as a combo right now are too much. Hey, you dodge those, cool. Here's a taunt from Cherio. Here's Raffer getting a pluck. Here's Vote, who's now 8-0-5, by the way, having a great game. You've lost all your towers. You had mentioned the gold lead. It's now looking at 16K. It's hard to fight back from moments like this.
It is. This feels dominant from Space Station Gaming right now. Able to move in towards the left side Phoenix and already have it down to half. Meanwhile, Nika was semi-threatening the mid Phoenix, but couldn't keep that going as has the minion wave pushed up and is waiting on his, which is right behind him. A 4-1 split now. United are in position to defend. Aegis is just about to come back up from Screaming Earl, but they've got all their ults to defend. But Raffer falls right away. Was that the Sunder from Snoopy that set up that kill? The shell went down as well, but eUnited, maybe they can show us some of that same defense. They take care of the Sobek early.
Now that's one way to start it off. Now Cherio's in an awkward spot. Looks like he can get away, but Variety is not going to make it easy for him. But that healing from the ult is just so difficult to deal with.
And Screen gets the dunk, so Cherio dies as well. That means they defend the left and middle Phoenix and get the 2 for 0 and manage to push Space Station out.
Now they're in a position, at least for eUnited, defend right lane. You find yourself, Finch, I find myself starting to get excited again because this is very similar to their turnaround in game number 2, right? It felt like they were just floundering on the floor. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight it, especially for everyone in chat who might be like me and is kind of hoping to see some more signs of life out of eUnited. There's still 4 towers left after that one they just took. There's still a lot of work to be done for this team to get back in it. There's a lot of gold on the map. All they need is a couple of team fights to go their favor to get that.
But that's so much damage. Guy just barely gets the ultimate off, and Nika falls for it, but Vote, with the snipe, is able to take care of Guy. Variety, I believe, just teleported into that ward, but they were on the retreat. Not a whole lot needed there from him, so eUnited are done with their push. They managed to get that tier 1 tower, but that's really all they got. They're going to need a few more defenses just like that if they want to stay in this game.
And honestly, if they could turn it just a little more in their favor. I mean, you can't really predict the snipes. Vote being able to connect on one there made it the difference. Dardes also went up, changed into Rom to be able to find some more snipes and try to take out Heroine. So maybe showcasing that SSG do feel how ahead they are right now, and they're willing to play around with it, because I don't think you drop that cooldown on Dardes unless you're very confident or feeling good about the way things are going. Like you said, all you have to do is do that again. Way easier said than done, but if you showcase that you have that ability, you can lock Cherio down when he gets too aggressive. Same thing can be said for Nika and Raffer. Especially with that Sunder online, I think there's a lot inside of eUnited that you can't really account for if you're SSG. And so you have to be careful getting aggressive, even around the Fire Giant that's respawned here, because I think eUnited have a lot to work with.
Look at these builds, though. You can kind of tell where Space Station are ahead. The Silver Branch built down there for Vote, where he's already sold off the boots, and I believe picked up that Aussie in its place. Meanwhile, Guy still hasn't even sold off the Hunter's Blessing, much less the boots. So certainly eUnited still in an uphill battle here, but they played well and have managed to at least claw their way back to a position where they can try and hold on for dear life It looks like they even want to be here to at least consider contesting the Fire Giant. Guy's not quite in position just yet. He is pushing up the middle wave, and the Fire Giant's down below half. Scream is taken to the sky with that Anvil of Dawn and is waiting on where to crash. They were all grouped up, but Vote gets to the sky just in time with the ultimate, so Scream can't complete the kill. Just a little bit late with it, and that means Vote can kill him with the snipes. Nika low as well, but Guy goes up at the ultimate. It's not enough either. Variety falls. Nika falls too, so it's 2 for 1, jungle and support for support, but that is certainly favoring Space Station at this point, even though they don't have the Fire Giant.
Now Snoopy's in a bad spot. GuyJ's low. Whirlwind is low. This looks like SSG might just be able to run it down. At least they're going to get this Phoenix back.
Certainly can. For some reason, Vote is way off
so
in
slow.
mid, not there to help with the Phoenix. But hey, they didn't need him. They burn it down. It looks like they're posturing right outside. They might want to push in 23 seconds before any support comes from eUnited. But it looks like they're going to head towards the mid Phoenix first. I'm not going to try and make a risky end call just yet. Rapper goes for the pluck, gets the beads out from Whirlwind, who puts some damage in response. That brings down Dardez low, but Guy is low as well. Mid Phoenix is starting to fall. Mid Phoenix will fall, and eUnited holding on by a thread.
And this is the kind of play, again, that keeps SSG ahead. They don't go for the win because the win's not guaranteed. Instead, they put themselves with 2 Phoenixes up, pressured coming down mid and right. And now, Pyromancer, no problem. That Fire Giant might be a risky call, so I don't expect to see him start it up. But soon after, whether or not they win a good fight around Fire Giant, if it's not the cleanest, then they still get it. There's an Oni Fury that's about to spawn on the other side of the map that could absolutely help you out. Or could be the key for eUnited to stay alive in this. Still a lot of options for the team in red, but they got to do something now.
Rapper plucks Variety back in. Scream is in the air and is going to need a miraculous dunk to help, but doesn't get a ton of value. Again, Vote's in the sky before Scream can find a dunk target. Way in the back and low is Snoopy. Vote looking for the 1v1 and should be able to win that one pretty cleanly. Takes care of him. Variety low as well, but Cheerio takes care of him again. That means now there's just Scream, Whirlwind, and Guy left. No front line left to stop SSG from trying to push in with right and mid Phoenix already down. I don't see a reason why they'd slow down to go take care of this game.
Yeah, honestly, right now it's looking 11-0-6. There's almost only one person to talk about in my eyes, and it really has just been Vote. I think Nika and Dardez have been a great job of setting things up, but Vote is killing anything and everything that stands in his way as they walk into the Titan room.
We have the Titan down to about half HP. Whirlwind falls too, and that should be it. The Titan taken care of. SSG, maybe with a little bit of a scare there up against eUnited in game number 2, are able to win this set 2-1. In one where I think they would have been favored from the outset anyway, but it's important to be able to clean up those sets when things even don't go the way you plan.
Well, I'll say, I mean, look at it in the last couple of weeks. Who's been defeating eUnited 2-1, right? I mean, SSG are now technically online with Renegades and Obey, all of which have gone 3 games with eUnited. And maybe that's something to say more about eUnited than it is SSG here, but I think there's that silver lining, right? What we saw today, at least in the first 2 games, was a completely different perspective from eUnited than I think we've gotten to see so far, and I love the energy they were bringing. I'd love to be able to see more of that, well, tomorrow when they play, but realistically in the next coming weeks.
eUnited, every time we look at them, they seem to keep getting closer and closer to being competitive, but maybe still a little bit more work to go. Something to build on, though, I think, from this SSG set here, Gore. Get it back down to the desk, though. Let them close things out from here.
Appreciate it, fellas. What a day from Finch and Goremizer. Rules are rules. Avrin, the Banhammers, over to you there in chat. But aside from that, Aggro, I think this one's got to be tough for eUnited. You get yourself another 3-game set against one of these top teams, unable to close it out. The wheels are turning. You can get it with this team. The wheels are turning. They just haven't. 4 out of 7 games have now gone all 3. Still haven't gotten the win yet.
Yeah, at some point, moral victories stop feeling that way, and you start just getting frustrated even when you're losing 2-1. But
right.
I think that this is why, even though eUnited has had a very similar record to teams like Obey, we often end up talking more positively about eUnited is because they do have these more competitive games whenever they lose. And even in this game, Vote popping off, eUnited have some opportunities, but ultimately Space Station slammed the door closed. Lesson learned, by the way, for Space Station. Let's stay away from the Heimdall so much. and stick to the ROM. You know, this ROM pick for Vote was absolutely lights out. But of course, I'm being a bit facetious. It isn't just because of the ADC pick, but also the way that they play around it.
Yeah, 14.5 KDA though is something to write home about. What a day, or what a set maybe for the long lanes. Really both sides. I think eUnited, despite the loss, have to feel confident in the way that Guy J played today. I think Snoopy had a couple good games in this set as well, but loved what I saw out of Vote. It was a tough game 2 for him, tough game 2 for the SSG long lane as a whole, so a bounce back here for Raffer and for Vote. Plenty of damage, plenty of kills here. I think Nika, though, as well, even outside of what Vote was able to do on this ROM, I think this Amaterasu was near unstoppable here in Game 3 as well.
That's why it was banned the first 2 games. It's just so strong, especially in a player like Nika's hands, and that's what makes Spacestation so difficult to play against, is that they do have a lot of these picks. I mean, we talked about the Afro at the very beginning, 90+% ban rate for when you're going up against Spacestation Gaming. It means you have to leave open strong picks like the Yama, even if Nika might not want to play something like the Yama quite as often.
Well, he had to play Yama here in Game 3. Nika, as such, hey, he's standing by. He'll let us know whether or not he wanted to play Yama, whether he was happy or not. I'm sure he's happy nonetheless, though, to be tied for first here in Phase 2.
Well, first off, Nika, congrats on the win. Then I gotta ask you, how much say do you have in the picks and bans? Because I can't imagine you wanted to go up against Cthulhu that often here, right? That's got to be everyone else saying that that's all right.
I don't know. I don't really think the god is that good, because in comp especially, there's so many ways to deal with it. Like, Nem Achilles is what Ghost did to us, so we kind of just copied it a bit. Pretty easy combo to execute on Cthulhu and just Achilles in general, so I didn't really mind playing against the god.
All right, well, maybe Nika doesn't take it too hard. Talking about Game 2, though, was there any nervousness amongst the squad after eUnited got that win going into Game 3, or did you all know what went wrong and you had the adaptation?
Yeah, we could have easily won the game on one of the Phoenix Sieges, but Dada's missed his ult completely, and Cherry didn't get his ult off, so, like, we just know that we messed up. Like, they obviously played well, like, can't take it away from them, but we know that, like, we messed up really bad and we could have ended that game, so we didn't, like, look too far into it for Game 3.
Well, that's good, keeping the emotions high and knowing exactly what the problem was. Well, this has been a pretty strong phase here for you all. How is the team feeling just kind of momentum-wise, morale-wise, about how this second phase has gone here so far and about how much work there is still ahead for you all to do?
I mean, we're feeling good, obviously, like, especially because, like, Phase 1 beginning, we lost, like, 4 games in a row or something like that at some point. But ever since then, when we went on, like, a big win streak and, like, just Phase 2 beginning overall, like, we're just feeling good, like, taking every game as it comes and not getting too complacent, because there's still so much left of this phase, like, before Worlds, so we're just trying not to get burnt out and just trying to have a good time.
Well, talk to me about you and Cheerio and that synergy between you two, because I feel like there's a lot more action over there in the solo lane than we used to see. I mean, obviously, in seasons past, but even maybe just last year in Phase 1, do you feel like you've been getting a little bit more attention over there, and how are you or Cheerio handling that?
It just depends on the drafts, really, and, like, where we think the, like, strong points of the draft is. It can change every game, and it just, like, turns out that we're playing around solo a lot more often, but obviously I'd prefer that. Like, Vote would say the same if the game's around him, you know? Like, you always want the attention towards your lane, so you can get involved a bit.
Hey, don't put us on blast. Hunters kind of love that we don't have anything to do with how the game goes. Listen, Nika, I appreciate you taking some time to talk to me. Congrats on the win, man. I'll get it back to the desk. They're going to close the day out.
That's right. That's it here for the Saturday of this week in the SPL. SSG able to grab themselves a win. A little bit earlier on, we saw a pretty contested set as well. Agro, you and I have been hanging out all day here today. Here's a look back at what we saw. PK 2-0 over the Renegades, 2-1 against eUnited here for SSG. At all surprised by the two matches and the results that we saw today?
Not particularly. eUnited getting a game against Spacestation, obviously not necessarily what we expected, but I think with the mistakes that Spacestation made and how well eUnited was playing as a whole today, once we started to see them play, that didn't end up surprising me. I am surprised at how weak Renegades look today. I will say that. I expected a much closer set between them and PK.
Well, the quick final look at the schedule, there shows us Ghost Obey and then Radiance eUnited to round out the week. Here, updated standings, though, SSG tied on top with Radiance. So a big one for Ghost tomorrow to kind of keep pace with that top spot. Radiance a chance to separate a little bit as well, just above SSG. So let's take a moment to quickly touch on those matchups tomorrow, Aggro. Ghost versus Obey, Radiance versus eUnited, maybe more specifically the second one. After what we saw from eUnited today, does that immediately become a little bit more contested of a set in your mind up against Radiance?
I think that it does, but Radiance is going to be a team that will watch what happened today and make sure that they are all on the same page. Radiance is the hottest team in the SPL right now, so if eUnited is able to take another game off of them, even if they were able to find a win, I think they would have to feel pretty okay, all things considered, how this week went out, even though they would still end up with a 0 in the win column in that scenario.
I don't know, man. You can only go to 3 games so many times and lose before I'm like, listen, I'd rather just go out. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how eUnited do tomorrow to round out the day. Ghost versus Obey. That one starts at 3. Radiance eUnited will take us home. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dolson. That's been Aggro. For all the casters, everyone else back in production, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Paint it.